Let's see how many folks we've got in. Hello, everyone. So I'd like to welcome you all today to the Rosenstiel School of Marine, Atmospheric, and Earth Science. I am here on our campus by Biscayne Bay on Virginia Key. We have about 65 acres, and it is really a beautiful place to be in South Florida, right next to the great city of Miami. So we have students from 49 states, dozens of countries, and in all we have about 500 undergraduates and 500 graduate students, as well as about 355 faculty. Today, we're going to take you around our campus and show you some of the different kinds of research and work that we do, different kinds of outreach, and you're going to meet a number of people from our faculty, students, and staff. I guess one thing that I really have enjoyed about the Rosenstiel School campus and about the community that we have here has been that I get to learn a lot about the different things that people do simply by being on this pretty small but tight-knit campus. I get to have great conversations both inside and outside of the fields that I know about. And it's been a really great kind of atmosphere for students to come in and get to do things that are interdisciplinary and or within a specific discipline. So we hope that you will make use of the question and answer feature today. And we're going to take you around, first of all, to introduce you to our Director of Human Resources, who will talk a little bit about our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And then we're going to take you over to our aquaculture facility, where our operations manager, Ron Hoenig, will tell you a little more about our great aquaculture facility. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to our Director of Human Resources, Cassandra Wiggins, who will tell us about our DEIC.
Good afternoon, everyone. My video is not able to start, so I'll just talk. My name is Cassandra Wiggins. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Faculty Affairs here at the Rosenstiel School, and welcome to the open house. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee here at the Rosenstiel School is focused on making sure that we have an environment that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive of everyone who wants to participate in the research and science and teaching that's going on our campus. We intentionally work to create a culture of belonging where everyone is valued and has the opportunity to add value. So we support all diversity training and initiatives that the university offers to educate faculty, staff, and students on diversity matters, identifying implicit biases, and fostering respect for differences among people. I'm sorry, but my camera is on, and for some reason I'm not able to go live. However, with us trying to make sure that everyone is educated, we do have some new laws in Florida that requires that we cannot make training mandatory for our faculty, staff, or students. So everything is voluntary. So we try to make sure that we just put enough offerings out to the community so that individuals who are interested in what we have to offer have the opportunity to take the classes and to take the trainings that we have. We've had some very good interactive theaters, some really good webinars focusing on implicit biases, looking at how to make sure we have a culture of belonging, and to make us really look at ourselves, to identify maybe there's something that we did not know we were doing that may have been offensive or didn't come across the right way, but it just opens up our mind to think about how we can make sure that we are interacting and speaking with everyone on our campus in a respectful manner so that they can feel as if they belong at the university. We've also had town halls where we listen to students' concerns about the campus climate and try to address those concerns with school leadership, our deans, our chairs, to bring about change so that our students feel welcomed, included, and a part of the environment. So we are very open to wanting to know what's the pulse. And the only way we can know what the pulse is that we speak with students and that they tell us and they share with us their experiences, what they see, what they hear, how they feel about certain things that's done in campus, in classrooms, on the campus, when they're out doing research projects and things of that nature. We just want to make sure that everyone is having a great time when they are on our campus and they're preparing themselves for their future. Our school also created a Rosenstiel Opportunity Award, and this award goes to incoming MPS students, Masters of Professional Science students, to help increase the diversity in the student body. So the school is really focused on increasing diversity to make sure that we represent the community in which we serve. The faculty and the dean at this point are also trying to increase the diversity of our faculty in every department on campus. So we are in a big push right now to recruit and hire diverse faculty so that we again are a representation of the community in which we live and we serve. We have invited speakers from across the academic world to come on our campus to share not only their scientific perspective and the research that they do, but also to share their experience being a minority in this scientific world. We've had some very dynamic speakers to come out, and the good thing is that they share the science, their research, what they do. They share their history of how they got to where they are. And then they talk about the difficulties and the challenges that they had to overcome being a minority in this big world of science and oceanography, atmospheric science, marine biology, geosciences, to make sure that everyone understands there is a challenge, but you can work through it. You just have to be focused on what your end goal is and help people to understand that because we are different and because we bring different backgrounds and different values and different things to the table, it makes us stronger as a community. It makes us more open to what is what we need to do to make sure everyone feel as if they are included and that they belong to this large scientific community that we all are a part of.
Thank you, Cassandra, for sharing all the really important work that our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee does. And I would love to just reinforce that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee does the wonderful job of choosing every year our Rosenstiel Opportunity Award winners. If you're curious about the Rosenstiel Opportunity Award, please feel free to ask more questions in the Q&A, and we can drop some links and let you know more. Thank you again, Cassandra. I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry that my camera didn't come on.
No, you did a beautiful job. So now we will go ahead and move on to our operations manager at our aquaculture facility, Ron Hoenig. We also have our senior program coordinator, Heidi van Buskirk, who's going to introduce him.
Everybody, I'm Heidi. Welcome to the Rosenstiel School Open House. I'm here with Ron Hoenig, manager of our aquaculture facility and Union Hatchery. He's going to tell us a little bit more about what we have over at the aquaculture facility.
Yes, so welcome. So we're across the street here at our facility, the University of Miami Experimental Hatchery, which is an integral part of our aquaculture program here. So we have both an academic track and research track that utilizes this facility. So you have your master's in professional science, master's in science, all the way to a PhD conducting research out here. Plus, we have a number of state and federally funded grants to conduct various research activities. Our focus is primarily with tropical marine finfish. As you can see behind me here, one of our large tanks. See if these guys come up. These are some of our breeding cobia, one of the species we've been working with for a number of years. So from the academic side, this is a very hands-on lab. And this is also open to University of Miami undergrads as well. We have a number of them participating in activities out here just to get some good hands-on experience with the husbandry and culture of a number of different valuable species. So the cobia you see here they've been born and raised, and they spawn regularly for us. And we work with a private company in Panama that's farming them. So actually, just a couple days ago, we shipped a bunch of eggs down to their facility in Panama. We kept some behind to see how the hatch rate is. And so these are 3-day-old yolk sac larvae cobia. And we shipped around 1 million of them down to Panama. And we do that on a pretty regular basis. So the hands-on aspect of here, we're doing everything a fully functioning commercial hatchery would do. We're going out and collecting broodstock fish from the wild to develop new species. We're acclimating to captivity, getting them to spawn volitionally here, then hatching and raising larval fish all the way to a juvenile point, at which we will pack them up and ship them out to various farms, specifically the farm in Panama lately. So you're getting sort of firsthand experience doing all those steps, which are part of any commercial facility. There's also plenty of different research activities here. We're looking at improving diets and feeds for the marine aquaculture industry. Also looking at integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, so we're combining multiple species, specifically using algae, macroalgae, in conjunction with fish culture. So the macroalgae will uptake nutrients, which are what the fish are producing in the form of wastes. So just trying to work on our sustainability and improve prospects for certainly domestic aquaculture, as well as the industry as a whole. We work with, right now, I think about 5 or 6 different species. We try to identify new species that have potential and value in the aquaculture industry. So we've got, besides the cobia, we have American red snapper, yellowtail snapper, triple tail, and Japanese flounder right now. In the past, we've worked with blackfin tuna. The only crustacean we've worked with is a Florida stone crab off and on. So we've got plenty of different species that rotate through here depending on funding availability and interests of our students. Over the years, we've had a number of students propose, make compelling arguments for new species. So we've worked to bring them in, get the appropriate permits, and even secure funding for these projects. So I'm not sure how much more time we have. A couple more minutes.
About 3 more minutes.
So I don't know if we get any questions in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any questions for Ron, you can feel free to drop them in the Q&A. We have a couple minutes for questions.
So, we strongly encourage participation out here from all of our students, undergrad through the graduate level. We also take on volunteers that are interested, that meet the qualifications for the University of Miami. We want to promote aquaculture and get people seeing it, right up front and close, and getting the hands-on experience. So hopefully we'll see some of you on our campus in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ron. I think we have a couple questions in the chat. What are current graduate research projects at this facility?
So one of them is the IMTA project I mentioned, doing the integrated multi-trophic aquaculture with algae and using our yellowtail snapper as our finfish species. So that is a project for one of our Masters in Science students. We have a undergrad doing his senior thesis with us, looking at genetics of our flounder broodstock. Another undergrad doing his senior thesis looking at the impacts of light and dark on early larval hatching of the Japanese flounder. We have a PhD student looking at red snapper spawning and viability for commercial production. Trying to think, we've got a couple other projects going on, but
sounds like there's a lot of them. That's really
there's always
awesome.
something to do here.
That's great. Patrick has a question. How do you deal with invasive species in Florida?
Well, that's not really our thing here. I mean, we have one non-native species that we work with in the Japanese flounder, so they are in a secured building. We keep our breeding stock there, and our wastewater is treated in a manner that prevents any sort of biological material escaping from them. but it's a problem that some of the other labs here deal more specifically with, such as lionfish and other invasives.
And is there any difference between MPS and MS opportunities for students at the aquaculture facility?
There's no difference in the opportunities. We sort of treat everybody on a pretty equal level in terms of getting in here and getting exposure to aquaculture and hands-on experience. Now, obviously, depending on the projects and the grant funding, the higher level students generally, have a better chance of funding.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ron. That was really interesting. We're going to send it back to Andrew.
Heidi, actually, I think we have one more question. And I don't know whether it's one that would be one that Ron can answer, but I'll throw it out there as a live question. But how does the hands-on experience at the aquaculture facility help students understand statistical population modeling of valuable fish?
That's really not something we address here. I mean, we're pretty much, you could certainly gather data on larval recruitment and stuff, but if you're in a captive environment, so it doesn't necessarily translate to what's happening in the open ocean. But there's certainly early life stage histories that that information can be gathered here just as a byproduct of having these animals in captivity and doing sort of more aquaculture production research.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. So I think that the question that was asked of Ron may actually be one that could be answered later when we talk to the folks who deal more with fisheries, because we also have a program in fisheries as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of our librarians, our Access Services Manager, Ann Campbell. She manages our Rosenstiel School Library, which is a separate library from the main campus libraries that's on our campus. And it's a beautiful space, very popular to study. So I think that if we are set, I will go ahead and send it over to Ann. And I see the video. Very good. Okay.
Let's go. Awesome, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Marique. I am an MPS student here at Rosenstiel. And today I'm going to pass it along to Annie, who is going to talk a little bit more about our library.
Hi, and welcome to the Rosenstiel School Library. We are one of 7 libraries within the University of Miami that our students, staff, and faculty have access to. And we're here to support you as a student and as a researcher as you move along your journey here. So this is our general library area. We have our stacks and we have some of our general seating that students are available to use. Anything that's within the library collections can be either picked up at a library, either physically here at our location or over at Coral Gables at the main campus, architecture, business school, law school, music school, or downtown at the medical library. And those materials can be sent to you at any UM location. So you can pick them up if it's something you need within the library system. Come on this way. Our library is a little bit different in that we are just a 1-floor library, so we're a little bit smaller. However, all the resources of the university are accessible to our students. So electronic databases, journals, about 85% of the journals here at the Rosenstiel School Library are online. So they're available to our students, faculty, and staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as long as you have an internet connection and can remember your logon and password. That can be tricky at times. Throughout our library, we have a bunch of different displays. One of them is our underwater photography contest that happens every year within the university. And there's a category for students and for non-professional photographers. So take a look at the webpage. Please take a look at the photos. And if you are an avid photographer, please go ahead and submit your photos. Within the library resources and services that we also have access to the Creative Studio, which is going to give you access to Adobe Creative Cloud. It's going to give you access to 3D printing, as well as digital and media scanning. We also have access to the Creative Commons, which means you can have a tutoring session. You can get help from the Writing Center. You can also get help from data and geographic information system and data visualization. So there's a lot of resources within the library webpage that you can use throughout your journey here. For other study areas in the library, we have our map and chart room, which is back this way. And we have some study rooms that are currently under construction, but we're hoping to have them up right after Thanksgiving again to have our students use them. So there's plenty of space physically here for you to use while you're at the library, and I hope you do choose to come to the university and make use of it. But anything that's available electronically, you can access anywhere. And later on, I'll be sending a link in the chat so you guys can take a look at the library catalog, take a look at the library resources, and know that we're here to support you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Annie in the library? If you do, feel free to put those in the Q&A and we can get those answered for you. All right, if not, we can, oh, is there something? Okay, so here's a question. Would we have physical maps to read? This is a fun question.
Well, we actually do have a collection of physical maps within the library. However, most of the current nautical maps and charts are actually available online through different government resources. So they don't send them print on demand. But if you're looking for them, we do physically have them here in the library. And each of these cases around the library are for different areas. So you do have access to the materials that are physically here.
Excellent. And can alumni come visit the library?
Alumni can come visit the library if they're part of the Alumni Association. And that's done through main campus. You can go ahead and submit for it, and you'll get an access card for 1 year period. If you're an alumni who doesn't have access to the card, you can come in and physically use the material here inside the library. Unfortunately, you won't be able to check anything out.
Thank you.
Yep.
And can you repeat what you said about students, the students submitting photography, the student photo contest? It broke up a little bit.
The underwater photography contest happens every year, and it's linked directly on the main Rosenstiel School webpage, as well as on our library webpage. And the details can be found right there. But the winners are generally posted here. We usually are on a year off cycle for the winners. So we get the former winners after they come back from being on display outside of the university. So there's something that you can always see in the library and see what's happening.
Gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Annie or related to the library or any of the resources we offer here? All right, if not, I will go ahead and pass
Emma,
it back
I have one
to-
question, actually.
Yeah.
I was wondering, are there ways that the library is used outside of just studying?
Outside of just studying, yes, we have seminars that happen in the library. We have thesis and dissertation presentations that happen in the library. We have outside education sources from the main campus library that'll come over. Data carpentry, things of that nature happen here in the library. Other than that, we also do bibliographic research with our students, faculty, and staff. If you have problems or if you need aid in researching something, you can definitely come in and talk to us. We can do one-on-one sessions as well as group sessions. We'll also show you how to use the databases, indexes, and just the general library guidelines that we have to help you make sure that you are on the right track to finish your degree.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions about the library, its uses, its resources? We have a question.
We have
Is
one question.
GIS tutoring available?
There is actually a GIS data services librarian, and you can make appointments with them. Currently, they're located at the main campus library. However, they do one-on-one appointments via Zoom, and you can have your appointment pretty much wherever you need, as long as it's within their operating hours. But yes, we do have GIS assistance. It's in the library for you.
Are there other librarians or library resources from main campus that students can access?
Everything that's
like that.
available at the main campus is also available to our students here. It may not be available in the same way. For example, the Creative Studio offers digital cameras and GoPros and different media like that. So if you're interested in doing some research and you're going to go diving and you want to take a camera out, you can check a GoPro out from the main campus library, or we have 3 here at the Rosenstiel School Library, and you can go ahead and request those and check those out as well. So you can get a little edge on your research or do a little more in-depth analysis of some things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. And I'd also just like to say, I think Marique and I can both kind of speak to this. The data services librarians are so, so helpful. I actually met with one of them yesterday with help using RStudio. I had a huge data set. He fixed my problem in like 2 minutes. It was so helpful. I scheduled the appointment the same day. So he actually met with me that same day, that afternoon, which was really, really helpful. So yeah, the library is amazing. Lots of really great resources for different softwares and anything that you may come across. So if there's no more questions, I'm happy to pass it back to Andrew.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. And thank you so much, Anne. We really appreciate our librarians. And one of the things that I often feel is that sometimes students, especially students who are coming from kind of a mindset where like everything in the world is on Google, so why do I ever need a librarian? It is completely not the case that if you're doing research here, it is really wonderful to have someone who is an expert in providing the right resources and directing you to information and resources and data that you might not have otherwise found, because sometimes it is not immediately available online. That said, we do have a ton of resources and databases where you can find articles and other kind of sources of data simply through the internet. You don't have to necessarily go through every single book or something like that. So now I wanted to move us along to look at some of our outreach. We're really, really proud of the outreach that we do. And we're even more proud of the fact that so much of the outreach that we do is student driven. And one of our biggest outreach groups is called Students for Students. And Students for Students essentially offers 30-minute or so virtual or in-person lessons and activities for students and even adults sometimes in the community. So the two directors, leaders of our Students for Students group, who are both students themselves right now, are Anastasiya Plotnikova and Victoria Schoenwald. So I'll pass it over to them and they can tell you a little more about our Students for Students program and how you could potentially get involved in that kind of outreach.
Great, thank you, Andrew. I'm gonna just share a short little presentation. So like Andrew said, we are Students for Students. I'm a fourth year PhD student, and our job is to go into the community and connect the Rosenstiel School with other students in the community, and not just in Miami, but all over the country. So we believe that not all students have the opportunity to come to our campus, but we believe that they should have that opportunity. So we take our lessons and our skills that we learn from our research, and we bring that to these kids. So we make about 30-minute presentations and we put them on the website, Students for Students, on our outreach website on the Rosenstiel School. And teachers across the country can go onto the website and request different presentations according to what they want their students to learn. And the goal of this is to foster curiosity about STEM and also spread awareness about regional and local issues within the climate and marine science in general. So it also helps us as students gain teaching experience outside of just the university level. So a lot of students here are teaching assistants, but we don't get a lot of experience with younger students. So this helps us build interactive lessons where we can take our science and communicate that to the K through 12 level or even the general public. And that helps us build our science communication skills as well. So like I said, we make about 30-minute presentations or lessons, and many of these we do with other students or in groups. We also do lab tours with coral labs, the toadfish labs, the wave tank, and things like that. And we either go into classrooms or we do it on Zoom. So we have lots of different audiences, the public, K through 12, and we've reached over 8 states, including California and New Jersey. So really anybody can request these presentations, and we've reached over hundreds of students. So here's a list of our current presentations. Some of our popular ones we have are, what is a marine biologist? How does El Nino affect Florida and sea level rise in Florida? And some of the local presentations we've done around the community here have been a question and answer session at the Key Biscayne Community Center after they've watched a marine science documentary. We've also had the Let's Build a Fish talk at Miami Eco Adventures and Coral Reef talks at the Miami Branch Lakes Library. So if you are interested in Students for Students, you could contact me or Anastasiya at our emails here. And we hope to see you here at the Rosenstiel School. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Victoria about our Students for Students program? This is a really wonderful outreach program that we have. And a lot of our students who come in are very much involved in the community and want to share their research and expertise. And they also want to kind of get to know the world outside of our campus. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And if we don't have any right now, then Victoria will probably stay on for a few minutes and be able to answer them for you in the chat for Q&A.
Definitely.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we also appreciate all the work that you do for outreach on our campus.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So one of our, you've already heard a little bit about some of our diversity, equity, and inclusion work with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Oh, sorry, I'm going to come back to this in 1 second. We have an actual question of, can graduate students participate in Students for Students? Victoria, do you want to answer that live?
Yes, sorry if that wasn't clear. Yes, we're all graduate students in the club. So we are the students who are going into the schools and giving the presentations to the younger students. So anybody can join no matter what track you're on, what degree you're in. We basically just want anyone who's excited about science communication in the community.
Perfect, thank you. Any other last questions for Victoria? All right, then I will go ahead and move along. Thank you so much, Victoria. I wanted to talk a little bit more about another of our student organizations. We've already heard from our Director of Human Resources and a member of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which includes faculty, staff, and students from the school as a whole. However, we also have a student-run group called Seeking Equity and Success, which is also focused on issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of our most active PhD students, I'm not quite sure how Lys has time to do everything that Lys does, but we're going to hear from Lys about this group and their activities. Lys, are you on and ready to go?
I am. I will
Wonderful. I will pass it to you then.
Now. Ooh. Please forgive me, I have a million tabs open. And so since I do everything at the school, and I will find it perfect. Hello, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see it fine.
Okay, perfect. So hello everyone, good afternoon. So yes, my name is Lys Isma, like a car lease, and I am currently the multicultural chair of MSGSO. And my responsibility includes running SEAS, Seeking Equity and Success. So SEAS is a marine science graduate student organization that was founded after the murder of George Floyd to be a safe space for discussion. We are unapologetically Black and devoting to increasing racial diversity in the sciences, but everyone is welcome. Our conversations occur monthly at 10 a.m. on the last Friday of the month. And we hope to see you there, ready to share and with an open mind. So below, I just have the link to the website. And so our past conversations include conversations about climate injustice, equity, justice, and law, white privilege, racism and prejudice, and institutional racism. And we were actually also fortunate enough to be able to start this year the first ever MSGSO SEAS Diversity Scholarship that we are hoping to award to an unfunded student. in order to promote diversity in the sciences. So obviously, the majority of people on this call, you're not here yet. But when you are, we are hoping to offer this scholarship every year. And in order for you to be eligible, you would have to attend 3 Cs meetings that semester or write a blog post that you are willing to share on the website with us, where you would talk about the importance of DEI and why it is good for students to have safe spaces. So our last meeting, the last meeting that we had was actually today. It was at 10 a.m. And we were fortunate enough to have Abigail Fleming, who is the acting director of the Environmental Justice Clinic here at UM, to give us a talk about tackling the obstacles and certain solutions that we can implement to achieving inclusivity in sustainability science and environmental work. And our next meeting will be December 9th at 10 a.m., where we're hoping to have discussions about microaggressions, where students can learn things on like how to respond and the best way to approach certain situations. So I'm hoping that that meeting will be very informative for you all. And so if you have any questions, please let me know. You can contact us at this QR code and at the link below. My email is also here. It is l.isma@earth.miami.edu. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you, Lys. We have a question in the chat. Do you have to be a marine student to be a part of SEAS?
So SEAS is specifically supposed to be a safe space for marine science students at the Rosenstiel School. And so you don't necessarily have to be a student. We typically do have some postdocs or lab techs that attend our meetings, but the idea is that we are a safe space. And so generally, with some exclusions, we don't necessarily include any faculty. We kind of want to avoid the situation of someone not wanting to be honest or say something because like their boss is there, you know? But we are very fortunate that we're able to include postdocs and lab techs and a lot of staff that work at the Rosenstiel School.
Thank you. I'm not sure if they're also asking whether, say, a marine geosciences or atmospheric science student would be part of the organization. I think you're muted still, sorry.
Sorry. So yes, everyone who's at the Rosenstiel School is welcome. So you do not have to be an MBE or any of those. As long as you are a student here, you are welcome.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other questions for Lys? Is there an overlap of participants with groups like Students for Students? And we also, of course, have a marine science graduate student organization. Are those kind of all connected?
There have been lots of opportunities for collaboration. And of course, a lot of people here are busybodies and active in every organization. So there's overlap in terms of like those spaces of sometimes we'll collaborate with another group, but they are like separate organizations and clubs.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for one more question if anyone has. And if not, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of the work that SEAS does, Lys, and for helping us to talk to our prospective students out there.
No, thank you so much for inviting me, and I appreciate it.
Wonderful. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move along to our underwater archaeology lab. This is a lab that does underwater archaeology work. We also offer a Master of Professional Science degree in underwater archaeology, which is one of the kind of few programs like this in the country. So this is a really unique opportunity to learn more about underwater archaeology. And for that, we have Julia Danielson. and Ariana Trapp to introduce us.
Hey y'all, I'm Ariana Trapp. I'm an NPS student here at the Rosenstiel School, and I'd just like to introduce y'all to Julia Danielson. She's also an NPS student, and she's getting her degree track in underwater archaeology.
Yes, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I am Julia in the Underwater Archaeology program run by Dr. Fritz Hanselman. So welcome to our lab today. So we have a super unique program amongst many, or few in the country, I should say. But we actually have unique access to Biscayne National Park, which has dozens of shipwrecks at our fingertips for us to do research on, which is awesome. A huge highlight of our program. So I'll take you around the lab today to show you a little bit about what we do. So here in the lab is where, as our professor likes to say, the rubber meets the road. So a lot of the first semester work you do is in archaeological theory. You learn about cultural resource management, and you take scientific diving, because diving is huge in our program and we need to utilize that in order to do our studies. So this is an underwater site map that we hand drew, and this is of the Popolo. It's a Spanish shipwreck from the 18th century. And these are a couple of the tools we use to do our maps. So we've got our little trusty reel right here. We have our data sheets where we record measurements, so we can take that data back and draw up our maps. And we have another hand-drawn map here of the Ehrens a iron-hulled ship built in Scotland and sunk in 1878 on the Foey Rocks out here. So this we use trilateration on, a technique of measuring, where we have an easier time measuring features. So we'll move on here now. So a lot of the tools we also use in archaeology to record are our cameras. Our underwater housing right here hosts our Canon camera, which we swim lines over and overlap the images. So we're able to create maps like this one. So this is a completely different wreck from another year, but this is a photo mosaic of a bird's eye view of this wreck. And this here, which we also use and generated by our underwater cameras in the lab, is our 3D model. So this is actually of the Ehrens wreck that we had our hand-drawn model of right here. So we're able to generate this on the computer and do more research on it from a 3D view, which we're able to see a lot more features we cannot see through this hand-drawn map. So this is a little bit of what we do here in the lab for processing data. But I'd like to say about the program in general, we have a lot of unique resources at our fingertips right here that other schools do not have. And we actually partner with the National Park Service and NOAA for a few of our class projects. So you're actually able to generate these reports and have that professional experience here. So thank you so much for visiting.
All right, thank you so much, Julia. All right, Andrew, we're gonna give it back to you.
Do we have any questions for the Underwater Archaeology Lab while we have you all? Okay, we have a question. Do you all collaborate with local museums, or is your data strictly for your archives?
So the data that we process, we actually generate the report. If we see anything that has to do with site change, we do report that to the National Park Service. We don't hold on to archives here. We just kind of manage it.
Great. Any other questions? Are the shipwrecks in Biscayne National Park mostly from the same region, or are they all over?
They're all over the place in Biscayne National Park. This is a hot spot for shipwrecks because of the bathymetry. There's a lot of shallow coral reefs, so there's a lot of wreckage all over the place on this coast.
Wonderful. And I think we might have time for one more question if anyone has one. All right. Are there any travel opportunities for underwater archaeology research with the school?
So as of now, this year, we're trying to come up with something. I know they have gone to Mexico in the past. And they have gone abroad for other research opportunities, but not specifically for classes. This is just research opportunities for specific students that show interest, but there are definitely a lot of opportunities.
Great. Thank you so much, Julia. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Ariana. I will go ahead and move us along to our next building.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you too.
It was really nice to meet you.
So I'm going to say that one of our newest facilities on campus is a really cool building. It's in two parts. It has one side with an enormous hurricane simulation tank, which we call Sustain. And on the other side, we have our seawater and marine biology labs, a number of which have different kinds of corals, toadfish, and leopardfish and other kinds of fish. One of the great things about the building is that we can pull seawater directly from Biscayne Bay. So unlike many labs, we don't have to manufacture seawater for our aquatic species. Emma, are you all set to go? Wonderful. All right, then I will pass it along to Emma and David Ehrens at the Cnidarian Immunity Lab.
Hi guys, my name is Emma Pontes. I'm a fourth year PhD candidate working with coral, and my research is focused on hypoxia and climate change effects on coral physiology. And I'm excited to be working with Marique today, doing this tour for you guys. And I'm especially excited to introduce Mr. David Ehrens, who is a research associate in the Cnidarian Immunity Lab run by Dr. Nikki Traylor-Knowles. And he's going to tell you all about the research that they do in this lab. So I'll pass it over to David.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. So as Emma said, we're the Cnidarian Immunity Lab, and one of the biggest focus that we have in our lab is going to be, as the name says, immunity. So as you guys may or may not know, coral bleaching is something that is incredibly affecting the reefs in Florida and around the world. But one of the biggest killers of that actually are the reason that corals die off is the disease itself. So it's really important for research and application science to understand a little bit more on how the immune system of these corals work. Because as humans, we have the innate immune system. It works the same way with corals. So it's really important for research and understanding which ones are the more resilient corals to understand how at a genetic level and cellular level, the immune system works. So just showing around, a lot of the work that we do is mostly at a genetic and a gene expression level. But one of the cool things that we also have in the lab is that we have the capability of self-sorting. So we actually can see single populations of cells in the corals and investigate exactly what they do at a genetic level. We also have like different observation mechanisms that we have. Here on the right, you actually have Dr. Lydia Baker, who is one of the people that we collaborate with using our self-sorting machine. Not only that, we also work with different organisms. And if we pass it along to our wet lab, we also do work with some specific corals and the research that we do with them. We actually have right now 2 postdocs that are working on dark gene research, meaning that there's genes in the immune system that we actually don't know a lot about. We understand how it's being affected by like heat stress, but we actually don't know exactly where it is occurring. So we actually do have some corals from the Pacific that we're working with, the Alexis that we just got. But as you can see from our work, we have the very well-known Stockhorn coral, as well as some of the Elkhorn coral. But we work with different organisms, and most of the research that we do, we have a PhD student that's also working with the immune system of ctenophores. No one has really been able to explain the immune system of ctenophores. So we're one of the first groups that we're doing it with collaboration with other labs, with Bill Brown from main campus. But we also work with NOAA as well. We have another PhD student that is working with how wound healing and the immune system affects how resilient corals are against heat stress and how that communicates with symbionts. But like I said, anything that is related to the immune system, wound healing, regeneration, all of these things are affecting it. And we have right now a PhD student, which I'm going to take on the research later on, which is going to be working with stem cells of corals. So As we know, in humans, stem cells can have a great positive effect and a therapeutic effect on humans when they're sick. So we're looking into seeing if we can find that stem cell population on corals, completely annotated, make sure that that's what they are, and use that as a tool also for restoration to keep on saving and keeping the diversity of corals. But as I said, we're Cnidarians, so it's mostly corals, but we also work with different creatures, and we're always happy to be collaborating. But yeah, and later on, I'll be happy to answer any more questions that you guys may have for that.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Are there any questions? Great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. And so, yeah, as Andrew mentioned, all of the tanks that you're seeing in here are filled with seawater right from the same bay. So we building is really cool, and it has seawater plumbing right on the ceiling. We're able to bring in that seawater straight from the ocean right into our tanks. And as you can imagine, in South Florida, there's a lot of coral research that goes on. So there's a lot of different specialties. We just heard from David, who focuses on kind of immunity and diseases of corals. And now we're going to go into another lab that focuses on this idea of reef restoration. So let's go in and see if Dalton's here. Come on in. And so, yeah, we're going to hear from Dalton Hesley, who's going to be talking to us about this idea of reef restoration and all of the different research that they do. And again, when we're seeing these tanks, again, this water comes straight from Biscayne Bay, which is very cool. And I just want to make sure we have Dalton. So it's my pleasure to now introduce Dalton Hesley, who's going to talk to you about the research that's done in Diego Lehrman's lab and their program that they call Rescue Reef.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this virtual open house. As she said, my name is Dalton Hesley. I'm a senior research associate here at the Rosenstiel School in Dr. Lehrman's lab, but also completed my master's of professional science right here at the same facility. So a longtime fan and happy to welcome you to this tour. So for those who aren't aware, coral reefs are in decline, dramatic decline. And so that has actually prompted a whole new field of research called active gardening and reef restoration, where we actually work to grow threatened populations of corals by the thousand to act as a platform for both research and active restoration to try and rebuild those populations and promote habitat function. And so our lab is pretty special in that we have these gardens, populations of coral that are available for pretty much any research project. So we readily collaborate with all the different researchers and labs here at the Rosenstiel School, as well as at other universities, because we're able to create really unique science experiment questions, ones that can answer a lot of these questions we're facing, these complex climate questions. And so that's really what we task ourselves with, is how best to find solutions to restore the future of coral reefs, all while collaborating with the general public. So to give you a quick look at what that looks like, it's really two steps, where we start by gardening or farming these corals in offshore, underwater nurseries and land-based facilities here at the Rosenstiel School. And it's really as simple as you see here, where this is a scaled down model of a coral tree made of PVC and monofilament or fishing line. And so we'll actually hang these fragments of coral from the tree in their environments that they really thrive in to grow. And after a relatively short amount of time, as little as 4 to 6 months, these corals will have doubled or tripled in size. At that point, we can then propagate or fragment them into additional pieces to begin the farming process. And so once we have a sustainable stock of these corals, we will then plant them back onto wild reef environments. And so that can be one, to actually rebuild those populations, either at the species or ecosystem level, or to conduct research about resistance to disease or increased thermal temperatures or sexual reproduction. And so again, our lab is really unique in that we can easily team up with other individuals, researchers, to try and ask these tough questions. So I believe you got a glimpse of the corals already, but we'll take another quick peek. So up top here, you can see this real time, where on the left, we have Elmore coral, a threatened species, important reef builder in South Florida, relatively small fragments, but then we microfragmented them into additional pieces, which actually accelerates their growth. That's the special thing about coral gardening and restoration, is that by regularly farming these corals, we're able to increase their productivity so that we can turn 10 into 20 into 40 into hundreds in a short amount of time. And so that's what makes it sustainable and such a great platform for research.
Great.
Thank you so much, Dalton. Does
Of
anyone
course,
have any
thank you all.
questions for Dalton? We have about 1 minute if anyone has any questions. No? All right, well, we can move
We have
on.
a
Thank you so
couple of
much, Dalton.
questions, actually. We have a couple of questions.
We do.
Let's do these questions quickly. Does the Rosenstiel School have a program that trains students to be research divers?
Yes, so there is a Antarctic diving course here at UM that officially authorizes you as a US diver, which is required to carry out research. And so everyone in our lab, students have that program, and it's one of the most prominent ones in the world. And so you know that if you come to UM, it's an amazing institution where you will be among the best of the best when it comes to scientific diving.
Wonderful. And then we have one more quick question, which is just, are more resilient coral species being used in coral gardening, or are endangered species being used?
Yeah, so now it's both, where initially coral gardening restoration was focused only on really threatened coral species, those at risk of extinction. But as the issues around coral reefs has expanded to ecosystem level decline, we've had to expand our toolbox so that we incorporate framework, more resistant to disease, more thermally tolerant. And so now we work with over a dozen different species and look at ways to actually toughen up those corals so that when we're restoring these reefs, they're as climate ready as they possibly can be. But again, public engagement and support has been really, really important, which is why we built the Rescue Reef program within our lab, which allows any individual to get involved and is a great spot for you to learn more about what we do.
There's just one more too. Are there any openings for new research students in the Coral Lab in the next 1 to 2 years?
Yes, every single year, our lab takes on a number of students. As we've been able to acquire more and more funding, we've had more and more positions. So right now we actually have 3 different master's students in our lab, and we anticipate that to be similar, if not more, next year as well.
And can any students from any degree track participate?
Yes, while our lab does require you to be a scientific diver, since most of what we do is offshore, any track is accepted in our lab, because really what we focus on are complex problems, so no one discipline can really address that.
Great, thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you so much,
Of
Dalton.
course.
Much
Enjoy the rest of the tour.
All right, so our next stop, we're going to check out, so now we've seen 2 different coral labs, and next we're going to check out a different invertebrate called Aplysia. Their scientific name is Aplysia californica, and their common name is the California sea hare. In other words, they are sea slugs, and so we're going to go into this lab to check them out. They're some of my favorites. And pardon me just while I put my mask on to go in here, since there are other students working in this lab.
Unfortunately, I think that we lost part of our internet in that lab. So they're going to move along to the next part of the building and be back with us in just a moment. I quickly just wanted to point out that in our chat, you should be able to see a number of links that one of our workers, Michelle Fernandez, has been dropping in for the library, for our Rosenstiel Opportunity Award, which is available to MPS students. and for GIS and data visualization services, Seeking Equity and Success, Cnidarian Immunity Lab, which we just visited, as well as Rescue a Reef. One other quick thing that I wanted to mention about while we're waiting for Emma to come back is just that
We are back, Andrew.
wonderful. I will pass it over to you all then.
All right, hello. Sorry about that. There's not great service in that lab, so we got a little bit disconnected. But I hope you guys were able to see the slugs. This is what they look like. Again, these are the Aplysia californica, or the California sea hares. And what I was saying is that for in terms of the research we do with these guys, is mostly neurological. So you might not think this, but they actually have really similar neurons to humans, and their neurons are very large and easy to manipulate. So because of that, they do a lot of different studies looking at human brain degenerative diseases, things like Alzheimer's disease, aging studies, Parkinson's disease, stuff like that. So they're a really cool kind of like model organism for marine science studies that have this human biomedical application. In terms of getting involved in this lab, there's tons of opportunities. This lab hires students every semester. Like I mentioned, these animals are grown and shipped to other universities and institutions to run their own experiments on. So we are always looking for students to help with the packaging, the cleaning, the shipping of these animals, the feeding and all kinds of stuff. But there are certainly opportunities to do research on these slugs if you have a research question focused on these types of slugs. So if there's any questions about that, feel free to throw those in the chat and I'd be happy to do my best to answer those. And in the meantime, we can hop over to our next lab.
We might lose Emma for just a moment while she's walking across to our sustain lab, but that shouldn't be more than just a moment. And I think I see her again.
Yes, I'm back. So I'm now standing in front of our hurricane simulator. So this is, again, part of our Marine Technology Life Sciences Seawater Complex building. And this hurricane simulator was one of the reasons that this building exists today. So it was built a couple years ago, and I don't want to tell you too much about this because I'm going to introduce current PhD student Peisen, who's going to tell you all about the research that they do in this lab. So I'll pass it over to Peisen.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Peisen Tan. I'm a third-year PhD student working in Sustain Lab. As you can see, we have a giant wave tank over here, and I'm proudly announcing that this is the world's largest and most powerful wave tank that is able to generate all the way to a Cat 5 hurricane or even higher. So this tank was built in 2014, cost the school millions of dollars, of course, it's expensive. And wind is going to propagate to that side, my right-hand side, all the way to the left-hand side. And as you can see, we have people already working there inside the tank. They're doing a new project called the DARPA. Yes, that's the name for the National Defense Project. Basically, we're trying to study how reef and corals interact with waves. So that we'll figure out a way for better coastal protections and how we're going to rebuild this reef, because we're living by the sea area by South Florida, and reefs are very important to our well-beings. Reef can actually absorb more than 70% of the wave energy, so that our coastlines are free from being inundated, being flooded, being destroyed by active waves coming in, hurricanes coming in. And we also have different coral models over there readily built. They're either built by 3D printing, which is the brain coral models, and those white ones are actually the real stack-form coral skeletons, dead corals. So when corals die, as you'll probably heard from Dalton or my colleague from the biology lab, when coral dies, they bleach, so they send the pigment out, so they become white. So that's why coral skeletons are just like our skeletons are white. We also have different exciting projects going on over that side. You can see the houses model and oil platform. Those are built for a variety of projects, mostly about ocean engineering. So we're going to put different models inside this tank to test, okay, this is a better way to design to avoid this fatigue so that the platform won't collapse in a short period of time, and that we can prevent financial losses and possibly life losses. And those house models over there are also used for foaming. Anderson Cooper was doing his interview here with my professor this June. We appeared on the CBS 60 Minutes with Anderson Cooper, and we also have people coming from Netflix. The newly released Earth Storm series, hurricane section is about sustain. So feel free to go to Netflix Earth Storm and watch how we do research over here. And we also have a lot of opportunities for students as well. If you come to UM as an undergrad, every year we take 2 undergraduate students as an internship student over here doing research with researchers like all over the world in collaboration. You can get firsthand information about the state of art technology. You can get publications, you can get conference talk, and this is all going to be extremely beneficial to your graduate school career, or even if you're going to industry. So yeah, this is Sustain Lab Surge Structural Air Sea Interaction Facility. And let me know if you guys have any questions.
Perfect, thank you, Paisan. So we have about 1 minute for questions. If anyone has any questions for Paisan, feel free to put those in the Q&A and we can answer those for you. Cool. All right, well, if there's no questions, we can move on. Thank you so much, Paisan. All right, so next we're going to go upstairs to the second floor. So the first floor is all invertebrates. We have a couple of coral labs, and we have the Aplysia, the sea slugs. And then our second floor is where we do have vertebrates. So we have smaller fish. Today we're going to check out some toadfish, but we also have things like zebrafish and damselfish. And with those guys, we do a lot of cancer and tumor work and kind of development on those guys. We also do a lot of oil spill research with those fish as well. And Marika's showing you the view from the second floor, so you can kind of get an aerial view of the hurricane tank, of the sustain tank. And it's always cool to see people working inside of the tank, setting up all the sensors and everything. So now we're going to come to our next lab, which is the toadfish lab. And it's my pleasure to introduce Anastasiya, who is a current graduate student working in this lab, and she's going to tell you about the research that they do in here. So I'll pass it over to Anastasiya.
Hi everyone, my name is Anastasiya. I'm a third-year PhD student working at the Toadfish Lab, and I'm going to show you some toadfish today. Come on over here. We have this whole wall of tanks, and these are our adult toadfish. Adult toadfish are actually our neighbors, so they are found in the same bay, and they are very tolerant to low oxygen levels, which the bay frequently experiences. Something cool about them also is that they can stay out of water for a very long time. So I'm going to scoop one out, and I'm going to show you what they look like. So these guys are actually from the bay. We get them wild caught from shrimpers that go out and catch shrimp. And one of their big predators are the ball-nosed dolphins, actually. And if you can see, they doesn't really have scales. It's a really shiny, kind of smooth, skin-like texture, which is super interesting. It's probably one of the main reasons that they can survive out of water for so long, because they may be able to use their skin actually to breathe, kind of like a frog. And they're called toadfish because they make kind of toad-like noises. And if you look at them, they kind of look like a toad, right? They are very antisocial in general, so they don't like being with one another too often. You can usually find them kind of buried in the ground. They're benthic. They blend in well with the skin. And if you're wondering why we're studying them, right? So we are actually using them to study their physiology. We're studying things like how oil exposure affects them, how low oxygen affects them, and how all of that relates to their internal physiology and serotonin. So most of you guys think that serotonin is involved in kind of mood and brain and behavior, but it's actually involved in other physiological processes like the cardiovascular system. Another thing that we're studying is development. So we actually have lab-reared toadfish right over here. These guys are about 1.5 years old. You could zoom into the tank. And this is one of our very first batches that we had actually spawn in the lab. So this is very unique, and something that I'm looking at right now for my research is how their heart develops and how serotonin is implicated in that kind of morphological development. So yeah, thank you for coming into the Toadfish Lab. I hope that now the toadfish is one of your favorite fish, as it is mine. And I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Anastasiya that she can answer?
Anastasiya, I have a question.
Yes.
How many students get involved with caring for the toadfish?
So we do have a lot of tanks. And we have a lot of opportunities for undergraduates to get involved with helping us clean the tanks. That's one of the ways that I got involved as an undergraduate. I actually have been spending a lot of time with these toadfish ever since my junior year here. So there's definitely lots of ways to get involved, and then the undergraduates can actually pursue their own projects, whether it's exposing them to oil or different pharmaceuticals, all those types of stressors. Great.
Anything else for Anastasiya? Excellent. Thank you so much, Anastasiya. And at this point, we have been inside several different labs in this building. We've seen some toadfish, some slugs, some corals. And so at this point, I'm going to pass it back to Andrew to keep the fun going.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Emma, and to all of our different marine biology labs in the MTLSS building. It was really a nice showcase for the different kinds of research that we do within there. One thing I quickly just wanted to throw up for people is that we currently have applications open right now. And so I would really strongly encourage you, if you're interested, to think about applying. And if you want to apply, we have, I'll just throw this up right now. We have this little QR code that you can look at right now at home to take you to some of the information on how you can apply to our programs. If you'd like to learn more about our programs, you can also set up one-on-one virtual information sessions with either me as the assistant dean or with any of the folks in our Master Professional Science office who themselves went through our program, some of them. We also have a number of students, current students, who are very willing to talk about their experience with you one-on-one. So I encourage you, I think Michelle will be able to drop the link in the chat in a moment, but I encourage you to go to our virtual info session links and schedule some time to talk with us one-on-one. If you're really interested in learning more about our programs and how to apply. Our MS and PhD programs will be open for applications until January 8th. So you have some time to apply, but do it as soon as you can, please, because it does tend to kind of sneak up on you, the end of the deadline. And because our MPS programs have a kind of dedicated office and is one of our largest programs and a larger staff to kind of process applications faster, we allow MPS applications, Master Professional Science applications, to stay open until June 1st. However, a number of those tracks are very popular and have limited space. And so even though the application is open until June 1st, you still have to make sure that you get in your application as early as you can, because some of those tracks do fill up. And then even if you're very qualified, if the track is full, we're not able to offer you admission that year to that track. That said, if you have a couple of MPS tracks that you're interested in, you can apply for both on the same application fee. So you could have marine conservation as your first choice, and you could have tropical marine ecosystem management as your second choice, and both committees will consider you. Whatever your first choice is, will consider you first. And if that track does not work out, then the second committee will also consider you. And another thing to keep in mind is that for our Master of Science students or for our PhD applicants, you are also able to apply for both the PhD and for a Master of Professional Science degree on the same application as well. There's a box that you can check, and basically you can apply for all of them on one application fee. And this is partially because sometimes students are coming to us with kind of a general idea of what they want, but they may have multiple different avenues that are appealing to them. So it can be really useful to have the opportunity to have your application reviewed by multiple different departments or tracks. So if you have any questions about our application process, feel free to drop those in the Q&A. Also feel free to look at the Apply Now page that we've done. And I see a few questions actually about our application process. As far as the acceptance rate in years past, in general, the University of Miami is quite a competitive university. However, at the graduate school level, acceptance rates are very hard to calculate because they vary tremendously based on which track or which department you're applying to and which lab. So it's very hard to give a very accurate acceptance rate, but I would say that it is highly competitive. The deadline is not December 1st. The deadline is January 8th. If you apply by December 1st, however, you will have a much better chance of admission. That is a true fact. So it is very, very good if you can apply earlier. However, it does not mean that you'll have no chance of admission if you're applying by the January 8th deadline. And we encourage you to reach out to us as soon as you can if you're interested in applying. One last question. Once you apply, how long will it take to hear back? So I mentioned how you can apply to multiple different graduate programs at the same time. And you will hear back from some of those at different times because they are different processes. So for our MPS programs, we have a dedicated office that processes applications quite quickly. And that usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks to hear back. So you hear the news on that quite quickly. If you are applying for our MS or PhD programs, we review those applications mostly in January and February. So the likelihood is that you would probably hear back by late March or at the very latest early April. In other cases, you may hear back earlier. It kind of depends once again on the reviewers, the department, and other things like other differences between the reviewing committees. I'm going to have to pass this to Dawn in just a moment, but I'll answer a couple more questions and then I will come back to them. And I'll also try to type answers while Dawn's talking as well. Let's see. As far as connecting with a research advisor, I do have very specific advice on this. If you're thinking about an MS or a PhD program, you will be a member of one professor's lab. And so it's important to potentially reach out to that professor and at least let them know that you're interested, even if they don't write back. Many professors will write back, but even if they don't write back, they will at least have noticed your name. And when your application comes in, they'll remember that you expressed interest. And so for MS and PhD, I think that's very important. For MPS, it is designed as a professional degree. And so it is not part of a lab. Instead, you're part of a track with various classmates who are also part of your track, and you're all overseen by a faculty member who has a lot of connection or expertise within that career field. So in this case, we do not recommend that you reach out to those faculty because again, it's not so much that you're part of their track, but rather that, it's not so much that you're part of their lab, but you're part of their kind of career expertise field. So once you are admitted, that is when you could reach out to them and kind of find out more about what advice they have for you. What you could do, however, is reach out to our MPS office if you're interested in our MPS programs. So I would encourage you to do that. These other questions I'm going to answer just by typing. So keep an eye on the Q&A if you're interested in learning more. But now I would like to connect you with our Marine Operations Manager, Don Cucchiara, who's going to tell you more about our really cool research vessel, the Walton Smith, and our other marine operations.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to share my screen. So my name is Don Cucchiara. I'm the Marine Operations Manager here at the Green School. I've been working here for the last 31 years. We pretty much monitor and maintain the research vessel RV FG Walton Smith. And I'll give you a quick tour around the ship. We took delivery of the ship back in 2000. We've been doing oceanographic and atmospheric research since then, in and around the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and also parts of the Atlantic. The ship is about 96 feet long. It's a catamaran, so it's got twin hulls. It's got a beam or a breadth of about 40 feet. And it sits in about 6 to 7 feet of water. So it can do very shallow water work, which is important around the coast of Florida. We have a lot of different scientific instrumentation on board. There's a quick rundown of what we have, and I'll give you a quick tour of the ship. This is our back deck. This is where we deploy a lot of our instrumentations. A few more slides, I'll show you what we do deploy off the stern, the back deck. We have a wet lab where samples can be brought in board and scientists can do filtering and experiments here in the wet lab. It's more designed for wet work. The dry lab is more designed for laptops and instrumentation, so we try and keep the water in the wet lab and not so much in the dry lab, just in case there's any spills. This is a ship, so it does rock and roll, so there's always water spilling around, which is why the wet lab is key to do any type of work in there. This is what some of the staterooms look like. This is all the staterooms have bunk beds, so you do share a cabin and there's a shared head or a bathroom. So it is tight quarters, but pretty much everybody learns to work together. This is our mess deck, our galley, where we take our meals out at sea. We do have a cook on board that cooks 3 meals a day. So while you're at sea, you are fed. So a lot of the grad students and undergrads like that. This way they don't have to prepare their own meals. This is our bridge crew from the bridge here. We have a crew of 7. So we have a couple of mates, a captain, an engineer, a technician, and a cook. Some of our instruments that we have on the outer deck, we have a lot of radars and instrumentation, but the one in the yellow box there is probably our most important instrument. That's our internet connection. So while we're out at sea, we have internet connection to check emails, respond to other types of questions that we might get, but we're limited by bandwidth. So it's all important to make sure we're not streaming or doing any live chat or TikTok videos. So it's mostly for science work. The ship, as I mentioned, is a twin hull. So we have sensors in one side. It's an acoustic Doppler current profiler to measure ocean currents, which is real important around the coast of Florida. The other side, we have depth sounders to do ocean bottom topography, so we can see the bottom contours. We also have a seawater intake pipe that pumps water through our pump into various sensors. We can measure oxygen, PCO2, and other sensors. We have an instrument that we deploy off the stern. It's called the CTD. It measures the conductivity, temperature, and depth of the water, and it's pressure rated to go down to about 6,000 meters, or almost a little over 3.5 miles deep if we are in that deep of water. This is a picture of a deployment or a recovery. You notice everybody's wearing hard hats and work vests. It's real important while at sea because we could be several hours back to shore in case anybody gets hurt. So safety is a key factor. This instrument that you saw deployed in the last slide gives us real-time data back in our lab, in the dry lab, so we can actually see the profile of the instrument going down into the water column. This cast here went down to about 700 meters. We do have an undergraduate program that goes out 2 to 4 trips per semester. So the undergraduates do go out and get an introductory class into oceanography. They actually do sampling during the trip, and they get hands-on experience. And this is coming back to port, all the scientists on board that ship. All right, that's pretty much what I had. I'm going to stop sharing. Does anybody have any questions?
Any specific questions about our research vessels? We have a couple. How often can students participate in the bridge crew?
Well, the bridge crew, you have to be a licensed merchant mariner, so you need to have a license, but students pretty much would be on board doing the science part, not necessarily the bridge part. But we do give tours of the bridge during these student cruises.
Great. And then how long are research cruises typically?
They could vary from 1 day to, we have another trip that goes out for a week before we get back to port. The ship has been away from the home port for about a month, but every 7 to 10 days, we got to pull into port for possibly fuel. We do have our own water maker on board, so we can make our own water, but usually fuel and provisions. If we have a full science crew, which can be 12 scientists and 7 crews, so 19 people, our produce could be one of the limiting factors. So we'd have to go in for fresh vegetables, fruit, possibly milk. So we are limited by the amount of people and how far apart the stations are. If we're traveling long distances, then we're going to consume more fuel faster.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Don. If you have a moment, I think there's a few more questions in the chat. If you wouldn't mind answering those, I think that would be great if you have a chance to answer those in the chat.
Do I have the chat window up? I'll go ahead and once I sign off, I'll respond to those.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for introducing the Walton Smith, our beloved research vessel. I'm actually going to pass us over now to Manish Devana, who is in charge, sorry, not in charge, who is involved in the Beal Lab. And he's going to introduce a video kind of showing some of the research that we've done on research cruises. Manish, are you here?
Yep. Thanks for that introduction, Andrew. Thanks everyone for joining. So I'm a fifth-year PhD student. I'm in the last year of my program in the meteorology and physical oceanography PhD program. So I have been working on sort of ocean circulation, and I work a lot on like ocean observation. So we actually go out to sea and deploy lots of instruments. So there's sort of a big opportunity as a student here, especially if you're studying like ocean science, ocean physics, biogeochemistry, that kind of thing. There's the Walton Smith cruises, and then there's a lot of other opportunities to go on sort of various different ocean cruises. So there's students all the time getting asked to go. You don't necessarily have to like be in a lab that is doing a sea operation. A lot of professors will like to give students chances to sort of get out to sea and see what fieldwork is like. So Lisa Beal is working on this really cool project in the Florida Strait called Focus. And so it's basically looking at how the Florida Strait current varies and how it affects sort of sea level rise and sort of a bunch of other impacts. We have this really cool video that sort of details everything going on in there. So I'm going to just share that quick. All right.
I really love the wild world. It really makes me happy and intrigued and curious to know how things work. I get excited about understanding new things about the ocean. That's what it's about for me. I think living true to your passions and your beliefs is really important. My name's Lisa Beal. I'm a professor of ocean sciences here at the Rosenstiel School. I'm specialized in observing western boundary currents, so observing the large-scale ocean circulation and how the ocean interacts with the atmosphere and its role in climate. What's behind is the temperature. What I'm trying to do is add some more information that we can give to people in the city so that their expectations of when there's going to be a flooding event, for example, might be a little more accurate. The ocean has weather systems and currents that are analogous to the atmosphere. What happens is then you get this balance between the pressure gradient, the high and the low, and the spin of the Earth. And that balance is called geostrophy, and that moves water. So there's a sea surface slope, there's a high, there's a low, and the water is moving across it. There's a huge change of sea level across the Gulf Stream, about 1 meter, between us here in Miami and the islands in the Bahamas. So their sea level is 1 meter higher than it is here. But what that means is, of course, that if the pressure gradient changes, so that sea surface slope changes, then the current changes. It becomes weaker or stronger. So that is related with sea level in Miami. What we want to measure is to get a handle on all this variability going out there in the ocean. If we know something about what's going on out there and how it affects the coastal sea level, then maybe we can understand better when we might expect some seriously catastrophic sunny day flooding events in Miami. Research cruise is the way that oceanographers collect data. So it's like a field experiment, but our field is the ocean. Yeah. The goal of this research cruise is go out into the Florida current and measure how that current is changing over time and relate those things to the way that the sea surface changes across the straits. It's the most intense and warmest part. As a result, it carrying a lot of heat away from the equators towards the poles. It's an important part of the climate system. The Walton Smith is actually quite a small research vessel, and she has 7 crew, and then we'll be a group of about 9 or 10 scientists. Right from the word go, we're all working together to get the science done safely. So there are a lot of moving parts, right? We have these enormous buoys and anchors and so on, so we draw out a deck plan, how everything's going to fit, and then of course we have to get all the instrumentation that we're going to bring with us, we have to get that ready in the lab. Is this one of the ones we're going to have a current meter on? If we want to be able to measure how the ocean's changing over time, we've really got to put instruments that stay out there. In this instance, we'll be putting these moorings down, and they are called inverted echo sounders. They basically sit at the bottom of the water column on the seabed. We have 9, and so we're going to put them every 10 kilometers because it's about 90 or 100 kilometers wide, the Florida Straits at its narrowest point. And they send out an acoustic pulse that bounces from the sea surface, and then they listen to that acoustic pulse coming back again, so it's called a round trip travel time. Because we know that the speed of sound in water varies with the properties in the water, particularly the heat content, then that round trip travel time is going to change. It'll also change depending on the strength of the current, because that's related to the temperature and salinity of the current. We also measure pressure, so that tells us the mass of water above the instrument. With those two things together, we can even derive how the water's moving. The shallowest one is 150 meters, so it'll be just after the shelf break, and the deepest one is about 800 meters. That's the deepest part of the Florida Straits. In this case, we're going to leave them for almost 2 years, and then we'll come back and pick them up again by releasing them from their anchors, and they'll float up to the surface. And we have to physically collect those instruments back again to get the data off them. To try to capture some of that interannual variability, we're going to be out there collecting the data for 5 years in total. So we've got 3 deployments of 20 months each.
5 and 2 meter chain.
You design the mooring, you want it to be upright, and you design it to be a certain length and to have all your instrumentation at particular parts of the water column. Because out there in the Gulf Stream, there's water that's come from the South Atlantic, water that's come through the Caribbean, water that's come from the subpolar gyre. All these different water masses arrange themselves in terms of their density. Some waters are denser than others, with the lightest waters on the top. So it's kind of like a layer cake. Miami is like the #1 city worldwide at risk from sea level rise. I'm really looking forward actually to doing something that's so locally relevant. It'll be exciting to start working more closely with other stakeholders in Miami that are working on these really important issues. The ocean is really the weak link that we have as humans right now in terms of knowing what we're facing with climate change. We have a lot to lose here in Miami.
Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions about that, I can sort of answer. So one
question already. How many months in advance are research cruises planned, and are different research groups able to make data collection requests for upcoming cruise deployments?
Yeah, so those are both really good questions. So the research cruises, it's like a pretty big planning operation depending on sort of where you're working. So Florida Straits is a little bit easier because we get to work sort of right out of either Miami ports or like Fort Lauderdale ports, but you're still planning this stuff out like a year to 2 years in advance because you have to sort of book ship time. You got to make sure you have all the resources. So it's really like you go on a cruise and you're already planning for the next cruise 2 years out. But the really cool thing is that as a student, you sort of get to there's always something being planned imminently. So you have a lot of chances to hop on, and you don't need to know like 2 years in advance that you're going on it. That's more of like the PI level. And then can different research groups make data collection requests? So yeah, that's a thing that happens pretty often in like the whole oceanographic community, because going out to sea is pretty expensive. So I've been on plenty of cruises where either like someone will just send one scientist with us, or they'll even just give us instruments with a bunch of instructions on how to operate it. And then we just send everything back to them when we're done. So that sort of thing happens all the time.
Perfect. Well, I think Manish, you'll be available to answer questions in the chat for a few minutes after this, right?
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing the video and answering questions for us. We really appreciate it. And, I'm going to go ahead and move us along to, I believe it will be Heidi and Ariana on our beach, as well as our, I see we're at our scientific diving facility.
across the street at the main campus of the Rosenstiel School. We are at the Splash Scientific Dive Training Facility. This is one of the few facilities in the nation that plays a key role in providing scientists and students with scientific dive training. Let you guys take a look at the pool. So our research diving course meets the AAUS standards, which is the American Academy of Underwater Science. So that means that divers are easily able to dive with other agencies around the country and conduct science underwater. This includes places like NOAA, National Park Service, FWC, really cool opportunities if you have the AAUS certification. The different diving techniques that this class teaches span from nitrox, double tanks, stage decompression, surface supply diving, propulsion vehicles, and even closed circuit rebreathers. So you're learning a lot in this class, to say the least. A little bit more about the pool itself. It was built in 2019. It's 15 feet deep all the way through, so there's no shallow end, and it's all fresh water. So you're getting a nice, safe, contained area to practice some of your skills before we send you out into the ocean to do your checkout dives. I'll take you guys over around the pool to see some more of the campus. Behind the pool, we have our volleyball court. So if you're on campus, it's a nice thing to do on Fridays. You can get a team together, grab a beer from the Wetlab, or just to relax, unwind. And then right behind that, we have our docks. This is where we have our fleet of small boats. We have about 7 or 8 small boats in our fleet. We also offer a motorboat certification course, similar to how you get an AAUS certification with the dive course. We'll train you on boat safety, how to drive boats in the Florida waters here. And then you get a Class A license to captain a boat of up to 26 feet, which definitely fits within our fleet of small boats. Our labs use these to go out and do research, especially our coral labs, which are doing a lot of coral outplanting right next door in Biscayne Bay. So we're really lucky to be able to have all of our boats and our ships right on campus. We don't really have to go to outside marinas to get to do our work. And here's the volleyball court, nice sand volleyball court, a lot of fun. And then we're heading out here to our docks next. So it looks like all the boats are out doing work right now, but we do have the Walton Smith that you guys just heard about from Dawn. This is our 96-foot research catamaran, which is pretty impressive when you see her in person. Got that big A-frame on the back where they can drop all of their instruments. And like Don said, full wet and dry lab on board. We also have our beach. Looks like a couple of people are hanging out here. This is a nice beach area if you guys get tired of kind of like the South Beach style, which is a little more upbeat. If you guys want to come, relax, enjoy the water, you have this at your disposal 7 days a week. Not a bad place to go to school, if you ask me. Does anybody have any questions about our dive pool or about the beach that I can answer?
I think there's a couple questions. One is, once certified, is there anything you need to do to maintain a scientific diver certification? For example, by diving a certain number of times a year?
Great question. I do believe there are certain requirements to maintain the AAUS certification. I'm not sure exactly what those requirements are, but I'll have Michelle drop our dive safety office's email in the chat, or maybe link to their webpage where they give a little bit more information about some of the requirements needed to keep up.
Wonderful. And then we have one more question, which is just, would students be able to gain the certifications outside of a course?
So our certifications at AAUS and MOCC, which is the motorboat course, I believe are only offered here if you take the course at our school. That's another really great question that I think Michelle could drop a link in the chat for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Heidi. There's a very cute dog playing behind you as well, I think. Very good. Okay, well, thank you so much for showing us the we're going to move along now, and we're going to talk to one of our atmospheric science PhD students, Alexis Wilson, who's going to tell us about another of our really active and important outreach groups in the community. As you know, we're in South Florida, so we have hurricanes. And one of the groups that educates in our community about hurricanes is what we call Canes on Canes. So Alexis, are you all ready? I can see you. Good. I can see myself. I think we're seeing the.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot to
the front
actually
screen.
unmute myself. My
There
bad.
we go. Go take it away.
Yes. Wonderful. So I'm with Canes on Canes. What we do mainly is we do hurricane outreach programs where we work with a lot of different groups. We're a hurricane science and preparedness outreach group. So I'll talk more about that. So what do we do? We're a hurricane outreach group and we give talks to a lot of local schools, elementary all the way through college, and community groups, which includes the Frost Science Museum. Sometimes we go and work with a lot of camps, and we also have worked with community groups that are at the University of Miami that are more geared towards older Miami residents. So what we do is we focus in those presentations and talks on hurricane preparedness and the science behind it, because we believe that understanding, at least on a basic level, some of the science behind it can make local residents actually understand what's going on more and help them make better decisions when it comes to hurricane preparedness. So we're looking to also expand the relief that we have locally and nationally. We do work with here at Rasmus to help with funding for disaster relief. And we are also looking to expand nationally some of our hurricane preparedness talks. Due to COVID, we've actually been able to have a bit more of a Zoom presentation system. And we have seen a couple instances where we have people outside of directly the Miami area who are interested in having us come and talk to them about hurricane preparedness. So who can join? We can have PhD, master's, and MPS students, anyone who's coming to Rosenstiel. You don't necessarily need to be a hurricane researcher. A lot of these slides are pre-prepared and you can just mix and match what you want and what you're interested in. And additionally, it's fairly low time commitment. So you can choose the events that you go to. There's no requirement at all to do a certain number of events. And you can choose the ones you're comfortable with as well. So it may be you're not a hurricane researcher, you can go and do ones that are a bit geared towards younger kids who may not have as intense questions, but it's very, very fun. I love doing it. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in any kind of outreach, especially weather related, to look into joining Canes on Canes. So you get involved, come to Rosenstiel. You can reach out to any of me, Alexis Wilson, Quentin Lawton, who's currently our leader of the program, and Brian McNulty, who's our faculty advisor. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? If so, let's drop them in the chat for Alexis about our Canes on Canes outreach program. All right, if you have them, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And I think that Alexis will be on for a few more. Oh, is Canes on Canes a club?
Oh, yes, Canes on Canes is a club. It's local to Rosenstiel specifically, rather than the University of Miami.
Excellent. If there are more questions for Alexis, you can go ahead and drop them into the chat, and I think she will be on typing answers if you have any for a little while. Thank you so much, Alexis. We really appreciate it. All right, I have one general question I quickly wanted to touch on before I introduce Craig Purcell with our Marine Science Graduate Student Organization. I got a question that says, if you're interested in a master's program, what are the prerequisites if your undergraduate degree is not in a science field? And this is a question that's kind of complicated to answer for the MS programs, particularly because it can vary based on the professor or the lab what the prerequisites are. So it's very important to go ahead and comb through our faculty faculty pages if you're interested in a Master of Science degree, the more academically kind of academic research-oriented degree. And you can find professors or students within the lab and reach out and express your interest and say your background, and then they can perhaps give you kind of more of an idea of what would be appropriate for their particular kind of research. The thing I wanted to touch on, however, is that within our Master Professional Science degrees, we have a number of tracks that do not require you to have an undergraduate degree in science of any kind. In fact, some of them you can have a Bachelor of Art in any topic whatsoever. Don, I think you're unmuted. Sorry. You can have a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts in any degree, and you can still apply for example, our marine conservation track. And the reason for that is a number of people who may have a different kind of background but get very passionate about marine science may want to pivot into a career field that deals with marine conservation. And just because they don't have necessarily a hard science background in that field doesn't mean that they can't be helpful with other aspects within kind of the nonprofit or government management or science communication worlds. So there are definitely options. I think Michelle could probably drop the various MPS program requirements into the chat in a moment. So keep an eye out for that. And now I'll go ahead and pass over to Craig Purcell, who is a leader within our Marine Science Graduate Student Organization.
Hey, everyone. Thanks. And just to piggyback off what you just said, I actually have a finance degree. I double majored in finance and biology from undergrad, and now I'm currently doing my PhD in the marine biology and ecology department for fish microbiome. So it just kind of goes to show the journey that you can take to get to where you want to go. Let me share my screen real quick. I'm here actually representing MSGSO. It's a student-run organization here at the Rosenstiel School. And let me see. Oh, sorry, guys. One sec. Oh, there we go. My bad. So what does MSGSO do? We host a variety of events. We are here really to enhance the student experience. We're here for the students, and we're all comprised of current students as well. We have multicultural diversity events, different fundraising events, social and professional development events, and we also sell our awesome Rosenstiel merchandise. And here it is. So if you see anything you like here, of course, I'm going to do a little plug for our merchandise. All this merchandise is used for the profits are used for student experiences and different events. So we have cool sweatshirts, hats, and all types of fun stuff. And here's an example. And if you'd like, you can just go to the website and feel free to pick something up. So types of events that we do. You can see here we have Halloween parties, we have beach cleanups, potlucks, trivia, which is super fun. You can see some photos here at our Halloween parties. Even our renowned coral biologist, Dr. Baker, gets in with the party. So it's a lot of fun events that we sponsor and run. We have professional development events as well. As you can see here, we have Rosenstiel Research Matters. These types of events promote different experiences in different professions within the marine science and atmospheric science industries. We have professionals from all different backgrounds that come to these events. I think this is already talked about, or will be. We do have our sustainability initiative. I don't want to touch so much on this, but Allison will talk more about this. We do have the gardening club and different events, like we said, beach cleanups and things like that. So Allison, her email's on the bottom if you want to know some more information about that. And Remedy as well. I think this is already talked about with Lys. Thank you so much. This is just part of MSGSO, a small subset of it, and it's very important. And I won't touch too much on this since we already did. And like I said, our fundraising, We do raise the funds for things like the STF points, which is the student travel fund, which is just used for students if they have a conference they need to go to, or maybe doing research somewhere. They can use that fund, which is accrued through points, doing various volunteer activities, and they can go and travel, and that STF fund will actually pay for those part of that or most of that trip. Other events, like I said, we have the trivia, we have Rickenbacker Rock Run, the auction, which is the biggest event. It's super fun. A lot of basically they auction off all these prizes and different things, like even like karate classes and scuba classes and signed Harvey guys signed photos and things like that. And it's a lot of fun. It's at the Wetlab, at the bar, and we do raise a lot of money every year. And there's actually a separate subcommittee for this that we're always looking for more people to join. I know that we have a couple this year which are starting to organize this event. So thank you for that. And here's just a quick look at who's on the board. Here's my awesome selfie on the bottom there. And then we have these other various students that are with us at the Rosenstiel School. And I think you might have even seen some of the people on earlier today. Yeah, and then this is just a little plug to join MSGSO. Some of these positions are filled now, but every year there's always positions filled. So if you decide to join us here at the Rosenstiel School, there might be a position open for you. Okay, and this is just a little recap. And then we already went over this scholarship. So yeah, that's it. And if you have any questions, please ask them now, or I can also send my email if anyone has any questions about what I talked about earlier, like with the journey with my past experience and how I switched careers essentially. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Craig. And I do think it's really important to emphasize that we do have a lot of students who wind up switching from what their undergrad major was into something that's very new for their graduate degree. I think you can stop sharing your screen, Craig.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No worries. So we're going to go ahead and move along now to Emma and Marique, who are going to be showing off our area called the Commons, which is kind of our oceanfront restaurant, as well as bar and kind of social space. Heidi and Marique, Emma and Marique, are you there?
Yes, we are ready for you.
Wonderful.
Okay, great. So I am in the Commons, which is home to Salt, which is our little restaurant on campus. It's open for lunch and dinner on certain days. It's a great place to kind of hang out, get some food while you're on campus during the day, study. There's a great study area with a bunch of tables where you can kind of hang out and also take the time to do some work there. On the other side, there is our bar called Wetlab, also a great place to kind of hang out and a great place to meet new people, especially network with some professors, and we have some people from our NOAA facilities across the street that come down and hang out as well on Fridays and stuff like that. So it's a great place to meet people and also hang out. But the best part of this area of campus is the view, which we'll take a look at. So this is right outside our Salt and our Wetlab area. Also has a bunch of tables and a bunch of seating area, but to kind of take some time and look at the view, definitely a great space that I like to come to study and hang out with some friends. And we also have, like you saw with Heidi, our little beach area that's accessible for students to come and hang out. So that is it from us here. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the tour. I'll send it back to Andrew for the Q&A.
Great. Actually, Emma and Marique, I kind of have a question for you still. Do you feel like, what do you feel like our Wetlab and Salt restaurant do for our Rosenstiel community? Do they serve a function other than just like having a good time?
Yes, for sure. You know, especially for undergrad and graduate students, a lot of times your faculty are here at the bar Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, having a beer. It's very, very common for faculty to be out here at the bar. And it's really just kind of like a casual situation for you to talk to faculty. So I've heard of internships being born over a beer, jobs being secured over a beer at Wetlab, you know, project collaborations happening. So it really is, you know, like a fun space, but it fosters this collaboration because it is just kind of this casual, you know, beautiful space for us to kind of hang out. So we do get a lot of you know, faculty and stuff like that. But the other cool thing is we get a lot of people from NOAA and the Miami Seaquarium that utilize this space as well. So again, just kind of fostering those collaborations. And yeah, it's a great place to start a project or, you know, pitch an idea to your faculty.
There's also opportunities to get a job working at SALT or at Wetlab. So those are always kind of floating around and students can definitely participate in that as well.
Great, thank you so much. Any other questions about our kind of communal common space? If not, I will go ahead and move along. Thank you both for showing us these spaces and sharing your experiences. All right, I'm going to pass us along to our Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies, who's going to share more about the various undergraduate opportunities at the Rosenstiel School. This is Dr. Larry Peterson, and I'll pass it over to you, Dr. Peterson.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Can everybody hear me okay, hopefully? Good, I'm going to see if I can share a screen here, and not that one. Let's try this one. Okay, as Andrew said, I'm Larry Peterson. I'm a professor of marine geosciences here at Rosenstiel. I'm also currently the associate dean who's in charge of our large and very diverse undergraduate program here that we offer. Undergraduate education in marine science has been offered actually since 1977. This is one of the oldest programs of its type in the country, where you can basically, you know, have the option of pursuing marine science as an undergraduate. We currently offer 6 different degree options: marine science, which is a double major program, which I'll come back to, meteorology, marine biology and ecology, geological science, oceanography, and marine affairs. Those are all different sort of academic tracks in the undergraduate program. We have a faculty of about 80 people at the school, many, if not most, who have active research programs. And as you've heard a lot in this presentation today, offering, you know, quite a variety of opportunities for, you know, students, undergraduate students, to get involved in faculty-led research, both in the field and laboratory. We have about 80% of our undergraduates actually pursue, you know, some aspect of research during their time with us. And that may range from sort of volunteering in a lab to, you know, basically pursuing independent research and completing a senior thesis, which requires a mentor and a committee and a proposal and a, you know, a project and a presentation at the end. About 40% of our students that graduate do senior theses, and the program, any of these tracks are really, you know, provide, you know, a very good, solid preparation for, you know, going on to grad school, med school, vet school, law school, you know, basically, you know, research, education, government, business, etc. I'm currently speaking to you from in the figure on the picture on the left. I'm on the Coral Gables campus. I'm in the building on the left there. Our undergraduate program is administratively based on the Coral Gables, the main campus of the University of Miami. And we have teaching labs here as well. And that's because, you know, the Coral Gables campus is the residential campus for undergraduates. As an undergrad, most of the classes that you take are, you know, sort of foundational classes that support your marine science coursework. So, you know, biology, chemistry, physics, math, English, you know, the various sort of general education cognate courses are taught on this campus, and so it's far easier for most of the teaching of our undergraduate marine science courses and atmospheric science courses, et cetera, to be taught on the Coral Gables campus. Most of our students, again, conduct research. They do that at the Rosenstiel campus out in Virginia Key, which is about 8 miles from here, and there's a shuttle that connects the two campuses and allows, fairly easy access back and forth. We do teach our freshman labs that accompany the introductory course on the Virginia Key campus, and we're teaching sort of an increasing number of upper level courses out there as well. And undergraduate students have complete access to the facilities out there, pretty much anytime, including weekends if you want to go out and spend a little time on the beach. Coming back to our various degree options, when marine science was set up back in the 70s, it was originally set up as a double major program. You could only major in marine science if you coupled it with a second full major in biology, chemistry, computer science, geology, meteorology, physics, et cetera. There are some additional programs there that just don't fit on the slide. You can double major with biochemistry, with microbiology and immunology, excuse me, with environmental engineering, okay? Meteorology down there on the bottom, it's been a single major program in existence for about 30 years. It's a program that follows the curriculum of the American Meteorological Society, so it prepares you for, entry into the National Weather Service, for example. That is a single major program, but many of the students double major, usually with math or physics. You can also double major with marine science, or you can do a combination with communications in broadcast journalism. Over the last couple of years, actually within the last 4 years, we've created a couple of other single major options. This is oceanography, marine biology, and ecology. These are both fairly new programs designed to, sort of pare down the double major requirements a little bit, but still provide a sort of a focused training for students, for example, who have more interest in sort of the physical, chemical, and large scale sort of biological aspects of the ocean. The oceanography major there is a very appropriate choice. And for students who are very focused on, sort of organisms and interested in genomics and physiology and sort of biomedical applications, the marine biology and ecology major is a very good choice. Oops, I seem to have lost my ability to advance. There we go. We also have geology as a single major program, although many do a double major. That program also has a 5-year option to do a bachelor's master's combination. The program has sort of an emphasis on field training. We're getting ready this next summer to spend a month in Newfoundland and Labrador, teaching students how to do geology in the field. Those are all Bachelor of Science programs. Our one Bachelor of Arts program is Marine Affairs, sort of the social side of the sciences. It's a very broad multidisciplinary program. It requires a minor in one of the departments or programs that you see listed there. Although, many students will do a double major or multiple minors. And again, for students with an interest in things like aquaculture or, law or, conservation or resource management, fisheries sort of falls into this category. Again, it's a good choice for students like that. Miami offers a whole range of study abroad opportunities, and our students take advantage of a number of them. Typically, study abroad is a junior year experience, and we send students. Popular places are New Zealand, Australia, and the UK, Iceland. We've had a few. But we also offer a fairly unique program of our own called U Galapagos, where, tailored for our students at Rosenstiel, it gives them the opportunity to spend an entire semester in the Galapagos Islands, both in fall and spring. The students live in the village of Puerto Villamil on Isabella Island, which has got a population of about 3,000, and they live with local host families. So over the course of the semester, they become very much involved in part of the community. These courses are taught by Rosenstiel faculty, and we teach them in a sort of a back-to-back sequence. So, a faculty member will come in, teach a specific course for 2 weeks, and then go, and then another professor will rotate in. And we've run this program for about 12 years now. It's a very popular program and is really pretty unique in being able to spend a whole semester in the islands. Finally, we have a variety of student organizations. Our students are, very active and involved, not just in the classroom or the lab, but with, various activities. The Scuba Club on the UM campus is the largest campus club. There are about 1,000 members. It extends well beyond, the marine science students. Students can get certified as to participate on the marine mammal rescue team. You can get, basically the training that allows you to be certified to, be involved in strandings. Miami is the, cruise ship capital of the world. The Propeller Club sort of links students with local maritime activities. We have an aquarium club, free diving club. In other words, there's, a chapter of the student chapter of the AMS. And so, again, it's a very sort of vibrant and involved undergraduate community. And, again, I think the undergraduate graduate connection and the whole sort of, Rosenstiel community is it's a pretty special environment. And I think that, our students tend to flourish and do very well. I'm not looking at time. I'm probably close to the end of my allotted time. So I'm not sure there's time for questions, but my email is pretty straightforward, just lpeterson@miami.edu.
Dr. Peterson, you have like another 4 minutes if you'd like. So.
Oh, okay, well, if we have questions, I can answer them then. But my email there is at the bottom. And again, feel free to shoot me an email. I may respond, not instantaneously, but I always try to take care of my emails. So I will just sort of stop the share here. Sorry, I've had 2 classes today. I'm sort of losing my voice here. I apologize for that. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to see if I can answer them.
If we have any questions about our undergraduate programs, you can drop them into the Q&A now. We'll wait just a moment and see if any show up. If not, you can drop them into the Q&A. And I think Dr. Peterson will probably be around for another few minutes.
Oh, yeah, and I'll hang in here for a while.
Type answers in the chat as well. All right, I'm not seeing any questions yet. So I think.
Okay, well, let me just say, thanks for those who are online. And, I hope you learn, a great deal about the programs here and the special opportunities. So thank you for attending today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Larry Peterson. We're going to go ahead and move along and talk more about our Master of Professional Science graduate program. This is our largest graduate program. And to talk about it, we have the 2 program directors essentially in our MPS office, who will tell you more, Chelsea Begno and Kayla McEntry.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're hoping that you got lots of great information about the Rosenstiel School and all that we have to offer. My name is Chelsea Begno. I am a senior program coordinator in the Master of Professional Science office, also known as the MPS office. And I'm also an alumna of this program. I started the MPS program in August 2019 and graduated in August 2021 in the marine conservation track. I'm going to pass it over to my partner in crime, Kayla, and we'll tell you a little bit more about what the MPS program has to offer.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kayla McEntry. I am also an alumna of the program. So I started with Chelsea back in August of 2019, and then I graduated in May of 2021. So I really appreciated my time in the program, and I'm so excited to be able to talk to you here about it now. Just like Chelsea, I am also a senior program coordinator in the MPS office. And we are going to talk more at length about some of our program requirements, what makes our program more unique, and why some reasons why Chelsea and I both loved it ourselves. So I'll send it back to Chelsea.
Thanks, Kayla. So you can call us the dynamic duo if you wish, partners in crime, but we are the people who usually talk to prospective students who are interested in the program. But in case you didn't look at our website or hear about our program, this program is catered more towards students who are interested in going into industry, government, nonprofit organizations, and working in the professional science market. The way our program is structured is twofold, really. We have one half of the program that focuses on coursework, and the other half focuses on an internship, which is sort of like the practicum where you're applying all of those skills and training and knowledge that you're gaining from your coursework to an internship opportunity, which will culminate in an independent science project that you're working on. Something else that makes this program unique is it's an accelerated master's program. So whereas students who enroll in a Master of Science program can take 2 or 3 years to complete, our students can complete the program anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So if students are lining up projects early, they can graduate in as little as a year. But on average, our students will take about 18 months to graduate. We have 14 unique tracks. Some of those are broad and a little bit more flexible in the course requirements. And some of those examples include our marine conservation track, which Kayla and I are graduates of, as well as Heidi, and coastal zone management. But we do have some other programs that are a bit more prescriptive and focused, like our underwater archaeology program. And we do have all of the admissions requirements listed on our website. So if you're interested in seeing what each track or department requires for you to apply, that information is available on the website. And each one of those tracks has its own unique page. So we have some information that you can read through about what types of jobs you may pursue or what type of learning you may get out of that track. We also have some sample plans of study for you to see what courses you might be able to take while you're enrolled in that track.
And so when you are looking at the website and you're looking at those plans of study, something that you'll notice, and like Chelsea just mentioned, is we have a lot of flexibility that students can have with our program, which is one of the main things that we find it to be so special. And also one reason that students really like that they can pick and choose, for the most part, exactly how they want to tailor their program to their career interests, to their personal background, and really make sure that they're getting the applicable skills that they want, more so to apply to a specific career that they want to go into. So we have some students who will do, for example, classes that are focused in field work and can go on to then do an internship that gets them into the field and picking up more field techniques, and then a career as a research technician or a biological technician or something that gets them out in the wild as often as they want to be. Whereas we also have some courses that allow students to focus more on the education, communication component. Other things include the technical aspects, so some GIS, mapping, statistics, you name it. We have different kinds of career paths and different types of tracks that you can follow. And from that also allows the internship flexibility. So I'll go ahead and pass it back over to you.
Yeah. Like Kayla said, I totally agree. The flexibility of the program is one of the things that really drew us to this program. And on a personal note for me, just the variety of classes that were offered. There were really so many courses offered here that I didn't see all in one place anywhere else. So I thought that was a great selling point for me, and it really did prove to be beneficial. So most of our students will complete their coursework in the first 2 semesters of the program. And we require a minimum of 24 credits, which averages out to be about 8 to 10 classes in 2 semesters. After that, students will seek out an internship opportunity or a job that they will develop their research project with under the guidance of a committee that they choose. And there really is a lot of flexibility in what you choose to pursue. This is your opportunity to practice applying for jobs and also maybe exploring some aspect of science that you didn't get to explore before, you didn't have any experience or exposure in. So it really is up to the student where they choose to have their internship organization be, how long they like to participate in that project. And it really is a partnership between the student and the internship organization. And yeah, I think those are 2 really great things that we appreciated about the MPS program. Being students in here was the flexibility and the great courses that were offered here to get us trained. and exposed to different realms of science that we maybe didn't have experience with before.
Absolutely. I just want to also add from my own personal note, specifically about the internship, something that I found really drew me in was the fact that I could do an internship about, for example, in my case, I did my internship about shark research, and I was able to go out on a shark boat multiple times a week and tag sharks. But I really liked that my final project that I was able to focus on didn't have to necessarily be about what my daily requirements were for my internship. So it was kind of like a 2-in-1 way of getting different skill sets. I got to do daily practice with the hands-on techniques that are used with animal handling and boat work. And I also got to learn how to put together a full master's level research project for my final report and conduct that research and see it all the way through to execution. So I really appreciated that I could do 2-in-1, if you will.
So thank you both so much for sharing all of this information on the MPS program. And I encourage everyone to visit the website and try to have a look at more of our MPS tracks and what they offer. I think we have time for one really quick question, which is just if the MPS, if you're a member of, say, the MPS Marine Conservation track and you don't have a scientific background, can you potentially work in a science lab at the Rosenstiel School? I think they talked about the Rescue of a Reef program in the question.
Yes, you absolutely can. I will speak from what my experience and also just the experience of many students in the program. My background is in public health and psychology, so I did not come in with a strict Bachelor of Science, background. And when I was on campus, I found that many of the labs on campus are just looking for students to participate. They will post any availabilities that they have in the lab to our listserv, and they are willing to interview and accept all kinds of students to apply or to work in the labs with any kind of background. And Chelsea, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say we do send out opportunities for students to work in the labs on campus, or we do have opportunities for other student jobs, maybe in the library or some of the administrative offices that are exclusively for our students on campus. But one of the things that I recommend is getting in touch with the graduate students who perhaps are already working in those labs. You can ask them what it's like working there, what types of skills do they recommend, how can you apply to work in that lab once you're a student. There really is a lot of insight that you can get from the students who are already working in there.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. And I think there are a couple more questions in the chat that you could perhaps type answers for. We have to go ahead and move along. So we're going to hear from someone representing our Atmospheric Sciences Department and graduate programs, James Christie.
Hi, I'll be really quick because I don't have any slides. So I'm James Christie. I'm a soon-to-be second-year PhD student in the Department of Atmospheric Science. I work under Dr. Cassandra Gaston, studying atmospheric science and air quality specifically. So we have a few degrees that we offer here. We have a PhD and MS in atmospheric science, and then we have, I think, 4 MPS tracks, which are broadcast meteorology, computational meteorology, climate and society, and then weather forecasting. Most of your classes will be taught by our 10 amazing faculty who are all very much internationally recognized and have state-of-the-art equipment and labs, which some of the things you can look into and study during your time here are, oh boy, I wrote down a list. Oh, I can't say this. Contributions in tropical convection, as in hurricanes, climate dynamics, radiative variability, climate impacts, cloud processing, and then atmospheric chemistry, of course, which, you know, I'm biased by saying it's the best. We're also very closely affiliated with NOAA's Atlantic Ocean Meteorology Lab, which is right across the street, and you saw a little bit of earlier, as well as the National Hurricane Center, which is about 15 miles west, and Professor Rosmier also does a lot of work with them, and he'll talk later. And then, of course, a lot of our professors are very well connected across the country, so you have a lot of opportunities to collaborate in your research while you're here. We also have some really cool state-of-the-art labs that, if you come here, you'll be able to work with, including the Cloud Aerosol Rain Observatory, the observation platform, the Barbados Atmospheric Chemistry Observatory. And then we also use, for any of our modelers, a lot of the University Center for Computational Science. So that's a very quick and brief overview, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Do we have any atmospheric science questions? If you do have questions and you're having trouble typing them fast enough, feel free to still drop them into the Q&A, and I think that James will be available to answer them for a few more minutes. So please feel free to reach out with any questions about atmospheric sciences, and thank you so much for sharing about the program, James. We're going to go ahead and move along to our marine biology and ecology department. And we have again with us Lys Isma, who will tell us more about MBE graduate opportunities.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yep, still Lys. So I am going to be presenting this afternoon on behalf of the MBE department. I am currently one of the student reps in the department. I'm actually really excited to share with you guys. So yeah, I'm a student representative I'm one of the student representatives from MBE. And we are also involved in GAC. So GAC is the Graduate Advisory Committee, and we are responsible for updating the program requirements, overseeing student progress, general student reports. So the chair is actually Dr. Elizabeth Babcock, but on the committee are also Drs. Larry Brand and Dr. Danielle McDonald. And I am a student rep along with Leanne Frank. And the mission of the department is to enhance our understanding of marine organisms and their interrelationships with their biotic and physical environments. So this includes physiology, genetics, genomics, ecology, behavior, and conservation science. And so the Department of Marine Biology and Ecology knows that good science and innovation needs different approaches and points of view, and that is only achieved through diversity. So we are continuously striving to create an environment where everyone feels empowered and welcome to be their full selves. So please join us. So we have a lot of incredible distinguished staff on our committees. And so this is just a list of everyone who works in our current committee, and all these professors are incredibly amazing and talented at what they do. So of course we have Dr. Beth Babcock, who is the current department chair. We have many others, and please feel free to reach out to any of these professors. You can always find their emails on our department website if you're really interested in any of the topics that they research. And so we also have many collaborations that includes with the Department of Marine and Environmental Science and Policy and the ABBA Center, also the Institute for Data Science and Computation. Luckily enough, so it looks like this year we'll be able to have a joint hire with IDIS. And so we're really fortunate and looking forward to that. We also collaborate with the Department of Ocean Sciences and CMIS. So currently in our department, we have around 36 PhD students. Students are still defending, so that number might be a little bit shifted, but so 36 PhD students, 19 master students, and many MPS students. And so the majority of our PhD graduates go on to academia, but we also have a quarter that go on to NOAA and other government agencies. 10% go to private industry, and then 10% go on to non-government organizations, a lot of which being like nonprofits. In our program, getting a PhD in our program is expected to take 5 years, with year 1 being mostly classes, year 2 involving the defense, the proposal defense, your qualifying exams, and years 3 to 5, including finishing the dissertation. So typically the program will take 4 years if you already have a master's degree. And one of the great things about our department is that we have no required classes. So you and your advisor are able and have the flexibility to tailor your education to what is specific to you and what will help you and aid you in your research. And in our department, students are expected to TA at least twice during their 5 years, and that's usually going to be in your second or third year in the program. All of our students are fully funded for 5 years, which includes the stipend, your tuition, and health insurance. And typically, students are funded 3 years on a grant, 2 years from school support, and you have to TA twice. Or another model would be a year and a half on a grant, 3.5 years on school support, and you would have to TA 3 times in saltwater semester. So saltwater semester is an undergrad course where students are involved in this very immersive lab environment. It's pretty intense. It's like 3 straight weeks, 9 to 5. And so that's a lot, but when you think about the fact that that's 3 weeks in the semester, it's a great way to get a lot of teaching in. And so research grants or fellowships may have additional requirements, specifically if you're going to be working closely with NOAA scientists. And you can find us at this QR code. So you can go into the QR code, look up our department, find any staff or faculty that you feel like would be a great fit. And I think that that's the best way to get in contact with our department. You can also get in contact with me personally if you have any more questions. Again, my email is l.isma@earth.miami.edu. And thank you so much. And does anyone have any questions?
I think we may not have time for live questions, although there are a couple of questions I see in the chat right now. Do you mind taking those and typing the answers for us, Lys?
I do not mind that at all.
Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing more about the MBE program. That was great. We're going to go ahead and move along to our Marine Geosciences program. And I believe we have Professor Ali Pourmont and one of our PhD students, Cici Lopez-Gamundi.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, sorry, I'm having connection problems, so I'll skip video since I'd rather you hear me than look at me. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you so much. And Cici also is here to tell you a little bit about her experience in our department.
Hey,
I will leave her with this momentarily. So before she tells us about it, let me just introduce our department quickly to you. If I may share the screen. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the Department of Marine Geosciences currently has a very diverse, though we're small, we pack a lot of power, and we are growing. So we have faculty that cover research and education in 4 core categories of earth science research, education. So what I have is physics, where Dr. Campbell, Gochlin, and Adam Holt spearhead research with oceanography and geophysics combined. Dr. Becker, Jim Klaus, Dr. Peterson, Pam Breed, Dr. Perkis, Dr. Ehrens. I don't know if I can move these around. So in the geochemistry area, we have Dr. Ollard, Dr. Swart. I contribute in part as well as in sedimentology. So we basically do research from earthquakes and ocean continental crust deformation to oceanography, look at changes in the physics of the ocean, in the biological realm of the ocean with foraminifera research all the way to stromatolites, some of the earliest forms of Earth, Victor Reed, to the geochemistry of both the ocean and land, from sort of astrobiology in the field of geochemistry with Amanda tapping to that, all the way to cosmochemistry, where I have some work, all the way into the ocean chemistry, where Dr. Swart and others have built a career on. So research education in our department touches everywhere from the cosmos to the depth of the ocean and into the mantle, and geochemistry to the geophysics to the sedimentary profile. So you will not find a subject that our department would not be able to give you some inspiration in. And so moving forward, as I said, we are a small department, but we pack a lot of power. We have a variety of research facilities along the research core line we have from carbonate Center for Carbonate Research, that is a very strong connection to industry, to variety research facilities where you can measure the elemental to isotopic composition of the planet Earth and beyond, to the petaphysical, to the sedimentological, to the geodynamical, to the sedimentological and psychological characteristic of the Earth, as well as facilities where you can investigate movement material from one part of the Earth, from the cryosphere, the hydrosphere, to the biosphere, and so on and so forth. These facilities not only train you in all manners of research after the Earth, but also my laboratory, to an isotope, to the stable isotope lab, to the research carbonate sediment research lab, they provide potentially training that would prepare you not just for academic positions, but also for the industry. And so there are two faculty current in the department, Dr. Perkins, our department chair, and Dr. Holt, who have available positions for research. As prior to my presentation was mentioned, your work as a PhD student or master's student here is paid, covered with insurance and everything. You would join a project that already exists. Unless you go through the PS track, our department is going to be doing very soon next year, the PS program. And so unless you want to subsidize part of your career building endeavor, and then we have potential internships that you can apply for through our laboratories if you reach out. So Dr. Perkins has availability. He does a lot of exotic research on the edge of where you can stress the sort of boundaries of research. Here's a submersible. He does research in the bellows of the ocean. You get to go on a cruise ship and also go under the ocean with his research team. Cece can more since she works for Dr. Kisna, although not in that particular.
Dr. Pourmand, I just wanted to let you know we have about like a minute left.
Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
This is the last slide.
Thank you.
Dr. Holt has another research position available to study the geodynamics of the Earth. Well, you can contact both of these faculty members or others if you're interested. So I'll give the rest over to Cece. I'm sorry to eat your time, Cece. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll be here if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer the text.
I think Ollie did a great job of covering kind of the interdisciplinary nature of geoscience, like specifically, geology. Like he said, I work with Sam Perkins, and if there are any questions, I could answer them, but I would just leave with one note about one of my favorite things about this department and Rasmus as a whole. There's a lot of subdisciplines in geoscience, and there's a lot of individual expertise, and that you're able to integrate as much as you want. If you want to be a purist, you're completely allowed to do that, but I'm more of a observationalist. I use a lot of remote sensing, so satellite data, and I work as well with sediments. So I just wanted to say that I'm doing my PhD now, almost done, and I did my master's and bachelor's both in geology, and this has been one of the most integrated PhDs that I was able to do. Before that, I was just doing very narrowly geochemistry or very strictly sedimentology, and now I get to kind of be a mixed scientist. So with that, if there's any questions, if not, I'll pass it off.
Thank you so much. If you do have any questions about our Marine Geosciences program, please drop them in the chat, and Cece and Dr. Pourmand will be available to answer them. I think that we can go ahead and introduce Professor Roland Rohmeiser, who will be telling us more about our ocean sciences graduate programs. I think you can stop sharing your screen, Dr. Pourmand.
Yeah, I am trying to. As you can see, I'm confusing back to my. Okay, there you go. I escaped. Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Roland Rohmeiser, the Program Director of Ocean Sciences, and I have a little slideshow here to show you what our department and our graduate program is about. The Department of Ocean Sciences focuses on the physics and chemistry of the ocean, and you see all the topics there that are covered by our different groups: large-scale circulation, and some RC interaction, remote sensing activities, and several chemistry-related topics. We have about 24 faculty members, 24 research staff, and 20 to 25 graduate students in the department. About 12 of those students are actually in the Ocean Sciences program. The others are in our MPS tracks or in our in other programs, MPO and ATM, but funded by people from our department. We have, here are the 3 programs that we are involved in: OCE, MPO, and the 2 MPS tracks. And we are also responsible for most of our undergraduate program of our school. And here are some impressions and pictures of important facilities that we work with. So we have a lot of toys here. The ship, again, the Walton Smith, doesn't belong to our department, but people use it for experiments. There you see some water sampling bottles that can be lowered into the ocean to get water samples. Here are large buoys that are used for RC interaction studies. There's a large computer where people do modeling activities. This is something from a chemical laboratory. Here is Sustain, again, Peisen explained it already, that belongs to our department. We also have the satellite station here, Sea-Stars, which can downlink and process satellite images. And we also work to some extent with the helicopter. I think Ved Shirayev will talk a little more about the helicopter and the ACES Center activities. Then here is something about our PhD and MS programs. We have 4 different tracks within this program that's called Ocean Sciences. There is an Ocean Dynamics track that doesn't have a lot of students, so that's more about larger scale oceanography and closely related to what people do in the MPO program. We have a track called RC Interaction and Remote Sensing that usually has several students working in Sustain and working with the satellite data. Then we have another strong track, Marine Biogeochemistry, that has a lot of students and very good students. And Biophysical Interactions is another small track that has actually no students at the moment. So the 2 main tracks are RC Interaction and Remote Sensing and Marine Biogeochemistry. You need 27 course credit hours for the PhD, 24 for the master's degree. You have a comprehensive exam after the first year and qualifying exam in the 3rd year. You give student seminars, 15-minute seminars at the beginning and at the end, 1-hour seminar. We expect 2 peer-reviewed publications to complete the PhD. And you will, in many cases, participate in field experiments, and you will definitely go to international conferences if you are a student in our department. And of course, most PhD students are fully funded through our grants or through fellowships. Some people don't understand that the funding usually comes from us. Then I want to make you aware of this, the so-called COMPASS seminars, the combined OCE, MPO, ATM seminar series, which takes place on Wednesdays and on Fridays. You can see the seminar lists there on our web pages, and we have all of this in Zoom, so you can watch our seminars via Zoom. We also have a YouTube page with many recorded seminars. If you Google my name here, or you search for my name on YouTube, Roland Rohmeiser, you find our recorded COMPASS seminars, some of which are 1-hour student seminars of students who were close to completing the PhD, and some are invited presentations and some faculty members as well. And that's it. Almost 5 minutes now. See, I can do it in 5 minutes. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, send me an email at that address there. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Rohmeiser. Again, if you have any questions, Professor Rohmeiser will be available to answer them in the chat, the Q&A. So please feel free to drop them there if you have any. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the endowed chair and director of our Aircraft Center for Earth Studies, Dr. Vaid Sharayev.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be with you. My name is Vaid, and I'll be sharing a little bit about ACES, the Aircraft Center for Earth Studies. I actually just recently moved to Rosenstiel myself after a year at NASA. 10 years. A year ago, I moved. 10 years at NASA directing the lab for advanced sensing. So I'm bringing a lot of that NASA technology here. And essentially what I do in ACES is invent new technologies for studying our home planet and other planets in our solar system and beyond. Most of my work is still for NASA and National Geographic and NOAA, but I have a sensor program where I'm trying to get students involved into building new instruments for the space agency for marine mapping on Earth and also for exploring our solar system. There's an aeronautics program I'm starting here where we use a lot of drones and high altitude aircraft, as well as the helicopter platform under the ACES umbrella. And then finally, all of these instruments we test and fly on Earth and eventually trying to get to a path to orbit. So we will be starting up a CubeSat program here, trying to get these payloads into space through NASA partnerships. And then finally, I do touch a little bit on AI and high performance computing applied to marine science. I'll show just a little bit about some of these instruments. FluidCam is an instrument that can look through ocean waves. This is a NASA technology I invented there and then brought here. We just came back for a month and a half in the Pacific with students leading the first airborne campaign in Guam and Hawaii under Miami, and it was a terrific campaign. This is one of the results from that campaign showing centimeter scale 3D images of corals in this particular area. Students learned how to fly drones. They learned how to integrate instruments onto those drones. And in this case, we had multiple students in Guam that we were also able to train in addition to our team to continue these missions while we're gone. We have a solar-powered electric research vessel where it sort of serves as our electric aircraft carrier here at Rosenstiel, and this is being used as a prototype for a larger solar electric vessel so we can continue doing all of this work sustainably and also charging our aircraft to operate here. As Roland mentioned, we have a state-of-the-art Airbus turbine helicopter that's capable of carrying 3,000 pounds of payload. This is a really exciting platform to test new instruments, get them to higher altitudes, and also get students, developing technologies that go, well beyond the academic level and directly into the field of aeronautics. So we have a couple skilled pilots, and it's quite an interesting machine. I've also been developing higher altitude platforms. So this is a program I'm trying to bring here as well. We've worked with a company called Swift at NASA to develop a high altitude long endurance solar drone. This can fly at 8,000 feet for 3 months, also primarily doing marine habitat mapping. So hopefully this will be, you'll see a fleet of these in the near future that are helping map our ocean floor.
NASA NemoNet.
And then finally, I've been working on a lot of AI tools. This is a video game we developed as part of a NASA project and is ongoing. We have students helping classify. This is a global marine habitat project, and I'll share just a short video on how this works.
NASA NemoNet is a game where you classify the world's coral reefs by painting on real-life images scanned from the ocean floor using a revolutionary instrument that lets us see beneath the waves at unprecedented resolutions. Our oceans are so vast, it would take us 2 million years to classify the world's coral reefs by hand. The classifications you create are sent to our teams of NASA scientists at home base to teach our supercomputer to classify coral reefs on a global scale.
So if you'd like to learn more about ACES or my team, feel free to scan that QR code. I have a number of new students that just joined. I've been very impressed by the talented folks at Rosenstiel. This is one of my students, actually, Stephanie, who's out on the research vessel here in Key Biscayne, and she was the one who came with me to Guam and Hawaii this summer, and we're looking for additional folks to join field campaigns and learn about instrument development. So I'd be happy to take any questions if there's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharayev. Are there any questions about our Aircraft Center for Earth Studies? If not, then thank you so much for sharing all about your research and our helicopter and other facilities, Solar Boat. I will go ahead and leave the Q&A open in case any questions do come up. But otherwise, we'll open up the Q&A to kind of general questions. If anyone who's remaining on the call has any questions, please take the opportunity now to ask them. We're very happy to answer them live or to answer them in the chat later. I also want to remind everyone that we will have the recording of this session available. It'll be both on Facebook, on our Facebook page, as well as we can send it out to our attendee email list afterward too, so that you can review any parts that you might have missed. Any questions? Well, I will stay on for a little longer, but I did want to thank everyone for joining us. I really appreciate all of your time. I hope that you enjoyed getting to learn more about the Rosenstiel School for Marine, Atmospheric, and Earth Science. And I'm very excited to have as many applications as possible. And we're really delighted that you were all able to join us. And we hope that you'll pass along the recording to other people who might be interested but couldn't make it today. All right. If that's all, then I think we'll go ahead and close out the session. Oh, I see one question. Do some of the master's programs have the opportunity to earn a PhD simultaneously? Generally, people tend to apply directly to a PhD program, but there are also students who wind up in a master's program and then continue after they've finished their master's to earn a PhD. So in that sense, I guess it's kind of earning it simultaneously. Any other questions? Well, if not, I will say once again, thank you very much. You're very welcome to email any of us, have a look at our website, and feel free to also schedule virtual info sessions with us if you have specific questions you'd like to discuss with any of our staff. Thank you to all of our presenters as well who are here. We really appreciate your time and your willingness to share your experience and research with us. And if that's that, I think we'll close it out. Thank you, everyone.